Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Boat 91. We are going to be having our big discussion tonight. Tonight's topic is: should a woman take a man's name? Is there a problem if a woman doesn't take a man's name? Is there significance? Is there impact? Is there, repercussions for not taking a man's name? We're going to have this open-ended conversation where you guys can actually join in. You can chime in and have your thoughts. That's in the chat, and that's also as well, if you want to join the conversation, by all means use the link that is in the chat already. Let me even pin that up for you guys as well, so you can actually join in and you can come on stage and tell us your thoughts. We do need cameras though, baby. Okay, I know some of you don't want to be doing camera stuff. I don't care if you're in a do-rag or the hoodie. If you want to come on, we're gonna need some cameras on. All right, but I am looking forward to the discussion today. I've got a few people that will be coming on and sharing their thoughts as well. It's going to be one of those conversations where I think we need to be open, and we're just going to be listening, because I think we all have our points of views and our own thoughts in regards to the situation. And I'm gonna tell you this straight. It gonna be interesting, okay? But I'm open. I'm open to hear different thoughts and different contributions from different people. So again, I'm gonna put a link. I'm gonna just make sure you guys can actually see it, and you guys are gonna pin it up so you guys can get involved as well. Now, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, you share, you subscribe, you click on the bell button so you get the notifications of when we go live, and also as well when we upload as well. And for those of you who are returnees, you already know what it is, baby. You have got the minerals. All right, cool. Really, really quickly, just want to bring what actually started this whole conversation. So remember, the topic we're talking about today is taking the last name. If you want to join the discussion, it's there. Taking the last name. Should a woman take a man's last name? This is what started off. There was a conversation around this article that I was reading. I'm just going to quickly read a little bit of it so you get a bit of a perspective. So NFL great who rose to fame as Ricky Williams said last week he legally took last name of his wife to create a marital balance. The former running back now goes by Eric Miron, adopting the surname of his spouse, Lena Miron, and reverting to his birth name, Eric. Ooh, okay. Texas Longhorns 1998 Heisman Trophy winner who rushed 10,009 yards during an NFL career that ended in 2011 said he completed a change about a year and a half ago. I found that's been really powerful in creating ease and intimacy and trust in my relationship. Okay. Myron said his fame has eclipsed the attention of his wife in their social circles. People kind of forget that she exists, so there's an imbalance in our relationship, he said. One of the ideas that popped into my mind was I can take her last name. Myron said, I think it's cool. It's somewhere we can both win. Lena Myron has practiced law, and the couple has had a herbal supplements business together. The former Miami Dolphins star said Williams wasn't his true last name anyway, because the man named Williams who married his granddaughter wasn't his dad's father. Okay. All right, cool. And so that's why he's pretty much done it. Okay, cool. So that's the reason why we're discussing this today. I'm just going to give you real quick, So, I think this conversation is going to be one that's going to be interesting, right? Just on the basis of just what he had said. He said he wants to create marital balance. He realizes that his role as an NFL star has eclipsed his wife. Therefore, to create the balance within his relationship, he has sought out to change his name. And he has found that has brought about some equilibrium within the relationship. Now, I don't think this personally is a great example of talking about why you change your name, right? I think his reasoning here is shambolic. I'm gonna be honest with you. It sounds like, bro, it sounds like you did something wrong. I don't know. It just sounds like it sounds like when you go and buy a diamond ring when you already had a diamond ring. You know what I mean? But it's because you done messed up and bought the diamond ring and the flowers. That's what it kind of sounds like. Now, I'm gonna just state my position and I'll invite the first guest up just to have a bit of a conversation as well. I think for me in this scenario, um, in general, this whole practice of taking a woman's name, culturally, because of the culture and because of the traditions that we already have, I personally subscribe to part of that culture and tradition, even though I believe necessarily it's not. It's only been a recent phenomenon. So when I research it, having the man's last name is a recent phenomenon. But because it's ingrained into culture, and I don't personally feel it to be harmful until it means when, if you look at the history of a woman taking a man's last name, there is some um, negativity behind it, in a sense of it was used as a tool to say that a woman couldn't own anything unless she was in the possession of a man, or should I say, a possession of a husband, right? So a woman couldn't hold anything, she couldn't possess anything, she couldn't own anything unless she held the last name of her husband. When I found that truth, I think it kind of took a little bit of the constraints of it must be this. Now, I'm not saying that I personally I'm going to be saying to my wife, please, I want to take your last name. I also don't want to do the hyphen stuff. Yeah, I don't want to do the hyphen stuff. But then I also must equalize that I must also equalize not you taking my last name as responsibility absolute. Meaning when things go foul, we're not looking. This is why I said about holding women accountable, and you're looking at your woman, I'm looking at you. Since you also want to buy into the culture, which is a recent phenomenon. Okay, when I say recent, meaning a couple hundred years ago, that's still recent if you talk about history. Then I have to look at men as the where the chopping block ends. Since you want her to take your last name because you're saying you are the leader, you are the man, and a woman should follow your lead, I'm with you. But I also need you to take responsibility because that name doesn't come free. It comes with something. So that's where we'll start the conversation, I guess. But I'll get my first guest on and we'll start chalking up the conversation and going from there. Marabade, is it Marabade? I might be saying it correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
How you doing, Marabade? You're right.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, baby.
Okay. All right. Can you see me? I'm not sure.
Oh, we can see you. We can see you good. You're good.
Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, I also don't buy that it's for balance. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
I don't buy that at all. There's lots of ways to create balance in a relationship, and I don't see, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at
Mm,
all. Um, I feel like if you're, here's the thing, I think men are more territorial than women. And so if you're taking her last name, you're taking her father's last name. So it's kind of like being subservient to her father. If you're creating a family or a marriage or a partnership together, then it's between you two. I mean, of course, the
mm-hmm,
family's involved, but it's between you two, and one of you needs to be the one in charge. So you're either saying um, she's in charge, or you're defaulting to her father. That's how I feel about that.
mm,
And then at the same time, I can understand what he said about not feeling like his last name was his last name.
mm,
But the thing that that I've seen people doing for like 20 something years or something is if they don't feel connected to their own last names, they create their own last name together. And
okay.
I think that would have been a better option than just taking her last name. That really just doesn't sound like um empowered at all. You know what I mean?
Mm, mm. Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. I definitely agree with you. I think if there was a middle ground that he chose, the middle
Right.
ground would be a hyphenated name, or like you said, a whole creation coinage of a whole brand new name, that they could work under and say, this is our family name. It's almost like a corporation. We've built a corporation. This is our name, and so therefore I would have understood that. But to take her name, I think based on our culture and traditions at the moment and where we stand at the current climate, is to say you're going to probably potentially be subservient to the woman that you're living with. That's how I felt about it, you know,
Yeah, or her family.
or her family. Yeah,
And I would say too, like, it's not like people haven't changed their names throughout history. A lot
yeah,
of Jewish people changed their names after World War II. My
mm,
history. That when they moved, to different places, that's super common. Um, and I mean, it's happened throughout time, so it's not like it's the craziest thing or unknown of to just, create a new name or something, but to just take her name is like that doesn't even show like it's not a partnership, it's not a traditional thing to create balance, to prove something or solve something. Like that doesn't solve anything in your relationship.
mm, mm. I agree
That's my
that.
thought.
No. I definitely agree that. I think um because also if we look history wise as well, especially within our British, even the British culture, um, we have things called classes, and then you had what we call houses. So like within like when we have the Queen, and then obviously the Queen, well, Queen Elizabeth, and so she would have been of a particular house. Her last name is attached to a house, so
Right.
Windsor. And so whatever house you are coming from, I can't remember what the actual term is. There's actual term for it. I'm calling it house, but actual term. What people would do is if you then married into that, whether you're male or female, if you married into someone's family, you would take on their name because their name would hold prestige, their name would hold status, their name would mean that potentially you have access to wealth and to power within that community. Um, but that was to do with what we're talking about, royalty, and talk about having ownership and having bloodline to the throne,
Right.
which is it's historical stuff. But I guess now we're in a generation where, okay, of course, we still have the Queen around, but necessarily that kind of jostling for power in terms of by, marrying into somebody's family to kind of climb up doesn't necessarily happen as much from the male side now. Men tend to have more access now. I guess the working man has a bit more access now and leverage to actually create his own kind of future in a sense. Whereas beforehand, there was a massive gap between what you call riches and poverty. Like you almost couldn't skip that gap. Like, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You would be lucky to skip that gap. So now we don't necessarily have that problem. So for him to then change his name to her name, maybe a couple of 100 years ago, this would have been like, all right, cool, my man's social climbing. But now it's a bit like, oh, you changing your name. Are you trying to social climb into maybe she's got a business, maybe her dad's got a business, maybe the family's got a business that we don't know about, maybe they got some
Yeah.
money we don't know about.
Yeah, but even so, there's not. Severely doubt there's like in the clauses only if you have this last name. Like there's
Mm,
no. I'm sure there's nothing like that. So it's not really going to help anything.
mm. No, I definitely hear that. In general, though, the question is, taking on a man's last name. Do you agree? Will you be taking your husband's last name? And if yes or no, why would you not, or why would you take his last name?
Um, I feel like it is a personal choice. I've seen people who keep their last names and neither of them change, and I think that's fine. But I think it's personal.
Mm,
And I think if one person feels strongly about it in the couple, that's something that you need to discuss. Um, so me personally, yes, when I was younger, no. When I was younger, I was like, no, like why would like I was very like feminist back then, like
mm,
um but I get like the tradition of it, and I agree with that this idea that a man needs to like profess something and have like a domain, so that kind of
mm,
um sets that up, I guess, in a way, you know what I mean, symbolically, I guess. And also it just makes things easier when your kids are in school and they're going to call you by their last name anyway. um it makes it easier if that's actually your last name. So
mm,
and I, and I grew up where my dad and my mom had different last names. and it always just felt weird to me. They weren't together. It always felt weird to me um, when people were confused by my name. So I have that feeling like, yeah, we need to all have the same last name.
That's a real point, though. That is actually a real point. Actually, that's one of the points I actually had, that as a practical measure, that it can be an issue in that regard, especially for the children, especially when you have to think about, if everybody hyphens, how long is the name going to be by the third generation? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Somebody's name's got to go. Yeah.
someone's name's got to go. And actually, that's actually the reason why surnames actually came to pass in the first place, because the duplication of the first name, and it was becoming very hard to find people. That's one of British and history anyway, right? And around about 11th century, that was part of the reasoning, not all of it, because some of it was just to keep women down. But part of the reason was because names were becoming duplicated, and obviously your name was part of your family heritage, whatever. If you're called Phil, they would identify with this particular family, and it became very difficult. So they started now bringing the surname, or the
Right.
maiden name, from the last name, which one will call it, and that then began that culture. But that also culture was patriarchal, because men do what men do, which is they inserted some crack inside of that and said, your woman can't own anything if you ain't got a husband.
Right. And my grandma, she was widowed, and I always wondered, and he was like not a good husband. I always wondered, like, why does she keep his name? Because she, but then she told me, I asked her one day about like how she built her house, and she was like, I couldn't get a loan for a long time because even though she was widowed, she didn't have a husband. I think some things were easier because she did still keep his last name, but some of it was like, even still, even though she was widowed, she couldn't get a loan for a house at first for like a while. So I guess that's, I don't know how much, I don't think that happens anymore, but still, there's just a lot of history to it and why it is traditional. So I get people wanting to do things that are traditional. Even if you don't necessarily feel like, oh, I need to have this person's name, but it's traditional, and that's okay. But when you're breaking something completely, like, and there's no real reason for it, anyway. Sorry, that was going back to the original question, but
no, that's cool. That's cool. I like that. That's not what. Corey, how you doing, bro? Welcome to the conversation, big man. It's good to have you aboard, my G. What you telling me, bro?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Yeah, so my thoughts on this, man, it's pretty clear that I can't see myself actually taking my wife to be his last name. My big reason for that is because the responsibility of a husband and wife. If she's my responsibility, she's to bear my last name. Her responsibility to kids, that's a whole other thing. But as far as the last name being taken, that's my biggest reason for there being a no-go for me. Because as the leader, this is what's going to be very serious for me. So yeah.
All right, appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it. Bro, your mic's picking up a little bit of background noise. Just, I don't know, it might be a bit of static behind it. But no, yeah, bro, I definitely hear that, bro. In terms of leadership, in terms of leading your home, and being able to be responsible. I think I made that point as well in the beginning as well. That was a good point that I was making. That I said patriarchy works when men know how to handle power without abusing it. Because the whole point of patriarchy, if it works, if men don't abuse power, is that we are supposed to lead, but we're not supposed to lead through love. It probably wouldn't be patriarchy if it was that case, but yeah, I'm just kind of using that term, right? That our job is to provide, it's to protect, and it's to be a priest, right? And so if not all of patriarchy, but parts of it would make more sense if it were leading through love and not leading through abuse of power. So, for instance, when we talk about taking the last name, I don't think most women would have an issue until you start realizing it becomes a power tool, right? Then it becomes an issue for them. But it also becomes an issue for me too, because when I start talking to you about my last name, can you take it? I'm also judging you by the fact that you wouldn't take it, meaning that you probably wouldn't follow my lead either. So now we're both looking at each other, wondering who gonna fold who going who going to fall first? Because I want to lead. You know what I mean? You're telling me you might be feeling some way about it, and it goes back to that kind of conversation about goes back to that conversation about goes back to that conversation about submission again, where the word submission becomes a trigger point because of the abuse of the submission word. It's used to abuse a person rather than actually being a beautiful thing where if I'm leading correctly, when I'm asking you to submit, you don't feel no type of way. Do you know what I mean? But we don't necessarily have that sometimes, a lot of times, because people try to take power rather than actually showing the person, hey, look, I'm deserving of you following because I'm a great leader and I can help lead our home, etc., etc., etc. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think that sometimes can be a contentious issue. Maribad, do you want to jump back in your thoughts?
Yeah, I like a lot of stuff that you just said, but I like how you said about the power play. Like, if are you going to be able to follow my lead if we're going to be contentious about this? Especially like this is just kind of like the starting point. If you're, that's just a starting point. This is going to be our last name. Okay, let's get married and do all this other stuff. So yeah, and I think about that as like, what kind of conversation or what led, like, that sounds like a really bad argument to me. That must have happened for that to, for him to come to that conclusion, and especially to make a statement about it, and especially to say that it was for balance. There must be a lot behind that. But also, you said, man, what was it? I forgot now. What did you say?
Was it parts of patriarchy? I said no.
Gosh.
Or leading correctly, abuse of power.
Yes. So yeah, I was thinking, when you were saying that, I'm like, well, if we're talking about, you're going to take my last, just to say, you're going to take my last name, and you're saying it in a, this is what, like in an aggressive way, then that's kind of going to start a fight. But if you're just like, this is what happened to me. It was like, let me see, how did you say it? It was like, oh, I can't wait until you have my last name. And I'm like, you want to submit, like, you want to. Submission should feel, from a woman, or maybe, or for anybody, if you're submitting to whatever, it should feel like a natural thing that you want to do. It shouldn't be something where you feel like, oh no, like, I gotta submit to this. Like, that's not how it should feel. So it's like, if you're being led properly, you're going to want to be like, yeah, I will follow, like, here we go, let's do it. So I think that's a really good point. And I agree. Like, I don't like when I hear people say submission a lot of times, but I do agree with the concept. In my real life, I feel like, if it's done properly, yeah, here we go. But when people say it a lot of people mean something other than submission. They mean abuse, like you were saying.
Yeah, I'm definitely hearing that. Good points. Go for it, Corey.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with what you guys are saying in regards to being a power trip, right? But it's the woman who has to make that determination. Don't marry a man who you know is going to be a power trip. And you want to recognize those tendencies before marriage is even a conversation. Okay, so when you've been with someone for X number of years, X amount of time, then you're going to see what their personality gives you. That's why I'm a believer in not getting married so quickly. You really need to understand who your partner is. And understand who your partner is. You see they're an effective leader. If you see that they're there to support you and they can lead effectively, then okay, go ahead and make that next step to marrying that man. If he leads in a way that you want him to lead you, then do that. And a lot of back and forth happens when it comes to, oh, I want to have a say. I want you to bring things to the table. I want to be able to discuss things with my husband. Sure, those situations will come up, but there are also going to be situations where he's going to have to just make decisions on his own with your best interest at heart. So you have to trust his leadership, not only to lead himself, not only to lead you, but to make the best decisions for you and that family. So if you're not doing that, if you're not paying attention to how his mannerisms are to make that right decision, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Me, I feel like there shouldn't even be a conversation about submission. If I have to mention it to my woman, then she's not the one for me. You made a good point, Merabad. You said it should be something natural, right? It should be something natural that happens. So I shouldn't have to bring it up. The way I lead, the way I am, the person who I am as a man should turn you on to the point of saying, you know what? I want him to lead me. I want him to work, be the person I can talk to about X, Y, and Z. He understands my thoughts, my value, and he values me in such a way that my opinions do matter. So it's not too much a power trip, but I do know there's some guys out there who are like that though, who make it a power trip thing. Well, you got to do this because you're my wife. You got to do that because you're my wife. You have other men on the side of that who take their responsibilities as head of household very seriously, who takes that umbrella of Christ, the head, the man, and the man, the husband, the wife, and children. You have men who take that very seriously, and I can respect that. But as a woman has to find out what's the right fit for her. I don't think any one of those are a bad thing. But a woman, whatever she wants, she has to be able to get the guy that fits the mold that she wants to be in. That's all.
I'm hearing that, bro. That's real right there. That's real right there. I think, I think this conversation is interesting because I think when I first ever had this conversation, this was years ago, probably when I was about 18. And if I think back to some of the reasons as to why I wanted to have, the girl that I was probably dating to have my last name, it wasn't really anything sensible, if I'm honest. It's like now we're making very sensible points about responsibility, and we're going to talk a little bit about the culture and talk about the society as what we're living and gender roles. But when I was 18, the only reason why I wanted to sing my name is because, well, that's what you should do. And I think a lot of men stay in that place where the reasoning becomes because you should do. And then there's no real good reasoning behind why we should do something. And I this channel is all about critical reasoning and thinking. We think, we praise people who are going to think beyond just the scope of what you've been told. And I think when I was younger, that was what I was thinking. I was just like, she should just do that. A woman should just take my last name. Like that's how it should be. And I think that is where if you get stuck there, where it becomes dangerous, because one, I didn't have a reason really, apart from that's what I saw in my family and that's what I expect to continue. And two, I think that leads you to a very dangerous rhetoric where it's about more control than actually being about, like we're talking about, good leadership right now. Because good leadership says, I'm giving you the choice. Listen, this is what I want. This is what I want. I want you to take my last name. But if you're also not good at it, I also understand. But maybe this relationship is not for me. Right. Whereas the other part is like, you go and take this last name. It is what it is. Like we ain't playing around. Like you almost want to dominate the person rather than leadership saying, this is actually the way that I lead. This is the way that I love. This is the way that I move. And this is a plan I have for my family. And it's how I see it going forward. And I think that's a much more different place, to be in when you're talking about taking that last name. So I think, just this discussion in terms of if somebody was to ask me, I would be able to give them a good solid reason. But that's why I keep saying that taking the last name equates back to these gender roles. And if you don't buy into gender roles, then you probably won't buy into the last name situation either, because they all got to go, right? Gender roles, names, they've all got to go. And I don't know if anyone has seen it on the internet, a bit of a diversion, but I don't know if anyone saw on the internet recently, just the other day, young boy, young girl walking down the street, and there's a 4 or 5 guys, about three guys and one girl walking towards the couple, and the boy splits from the girl, and he walks in between, right? Now, when I saw that, and I see the comments, everybody's saying the exact same thing. Why is the brother split from the girl? Why have you split from her? You should have stayed with her. Now she's had to handle it. Nobody's saying he should fight the people, but he didn't make a move of protection. That will never change. There are certain things in this lifetime that are set in stone due to biology. which is why I'm saying maybe not necessarily the last name, but there are certain things that men and women do differently that are going to be set in stone. And when you reverse it, we have big, big problems, I personally believe. So I also think to myself, as part of the gender role, I think taking the name also is a part of that gender role. And that means I'm going to play my role, which is I'm going to provide, I'm going to protect, and I'm going to be a priest of my home. I'm going to make sure I provide for you mentally, physically, spiritually, sexually, all those kind of areas. I mean, sexually is a bit more mutual kind of thing, but you know what I mean? We're going to provide.
I'm so glad you said that, because I was like, how does that work?
Like, how am I going to provide the sex part? I don't know how it's going to happen. You know what I mean? So, yeah. You know what I mean? But yeah, remember, do you want to jump back in again, and I'll let Corey jump in after if you've got anything to add.
No, I just yeah, I was just trying to see how that would work. When you said that sexually, I was like, oh, okay. But no, I'm a little confused about the thing that you said. Like, you said the guy split from the girl, so she was left to deal with the guys by herself. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so basically what happened, like the guy and the girl, so the guy was here and a group of people are coming towards them both. He stayed in the middle and split the group, but she went to the side. When she went to the side, the other guy who was there went to the other guy who was approaching him went to the side of the girl and grabbed the girl's arm.
Oh.
So he didn't actually protect her. Although he avoided a fight, he didn't protect her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now we're all looking at him like, bro, I wouldn't even say it's a punk move. It's just a bad move to make. You didn't protect your partner. You know, it's almost like when you see those prank videos where you see the guy and the girl get pranked, is scared, and the guy just takes off without the girl. You're like, rah, man didn't even protect this girl, you know? You didn't even think about this girl. And we judge that through gender roles. Even if you don't like gender roles, most people will judge it through those eyes. But yeah, go on, sorry.
I was thinking because of what gosh, I can't remember the other guy's name right now. I can't see because my phone is backwards. But what he was saying too about protection and the idea of knowing like who your partner is first. And that's one of those things that you notice when you first are with somebody. It's like when we're walking down the street, do you get on the outside? Those are the little things that you have to like pay attention to, that I think some people kind of dismiss or brush aside, like, oh, that was kind of weird, but like that's kind of important, that the little stuff like that. Yeah, that's all I was thinking, is like, yeah, you have to, we like to, and trust me, I was the number one culprit, and just like men and women are exactly the same, and I don't believe that anymore, but that's what I used to believe. But once you start like really moving in the world, like in the real world, we are different, and obviously like physically we're different, and hormonally and everything. So all of those things lead up to a lot of different ways that we have to move differently. And if you don't pay attention to little things like that, you do end up in chaos. I don't know. I think it ends up that way. Like, I've never seen it not end up that way. I don't think you can have balance if you're both leading, you're both aggressive, you're both combative, you're both trying to protect and provide at the same level, because then you're competing and butting heads. Like, I don't think you can have both. That's just my thoughts.
I like that. Good points.
So, I like to know, if it's some feel that it's equal, right? So a lot of women say they want to have their say in that marriage. So my question is that, okay, scenario, right? You've been married. It's going on 2 or 3 years. You've been married, right? So you guys have been talking about getting a new home. And in talking about getting a home, you've discussed everything you want from your husband. I mean, it's in the house, what rooms you want to have, this, that, and the other. So, one day your husband comes home and he picks you up, he takes you to his house, and he gives you the keys and says, babe, this is our new house. You haven't seen this house. You haven't gone through the house. You don't know where things are. But you go into this house and you notice everything that you wanted in a house is in this house. Is that a problem? I'm curious. Is that a problem?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you. You don't lay,
Oh,
lay
okay.
me on the shoulder. Yeah. Would that be a problem for you?
No.
Okay. Because he
I
listened.
mean, oh, wait. Let me be honest. Let me be honest. At first, I would probably want to be like, why was I not included in this? But
Okay.
but I think I would pretty quickly just be like, okay, well, you handled it, you know?
Right. So the point that I think I'm making here is that there's no conversation to be had because the conversation was already had. You know, sometimes we
Right.
get wrapped up into the moment type conversations, and we've already had the conversation. So if we've already had the conversations, no need for me to come back to you. This is my way of showing my wife I'm an effective listener. Okay, you've already told me what you want, what your wants and desires are. I'm going to make sure that when I get the home for us, when I sign that over, then it's what you want. So it's the element of surprise, also that you know that I pay attention. So a lot of that you need to allow that man, your husband, to do for you to show that those leadership capabilities are definitely there. If he has to ask you about every minute thing at every single time, then it's like, okay, are you leading me or are you looking for approval? You know, so
I think,
it's different
sorry,
levels. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I think the thing about that, I get what you're saying. I think the thing about that is, as women, we need I don't want to say validation, but we need kind of like constant, I don't know. I can't think of a good name, like not banter, but I don't know, something like validation on things. So that's why we like to have the conversations over and over again. We want to know what's going on. So even though like you might have it in the back of your mind, if we haven't talked about it in a long time, we don't feel like you do. Like, because for us, like everything's cycling up here all the time. And I know like men, are able to put things in boxes and they just stay there. But that's hard for a woman to understand because things go like this for
That's
us.
honest. That's honest.
So
Because
I get it. And I think with time, like people would, with time, I think good relationships, people are able to be like, okay, well, I know, like I have proof of this. This is how this works. You know what I mean?
yeah. So
And you
you know,
can be
I
more
hear what you're
secure
saying.
in that. Yeah.
There are a lot of women that I've had conversations with who say they're ready for a man to come in and lead effectively, right? They've been having to do everything themselves for so long. It will be nice for a good man to come into their life, marry them, do things the right way, lead them effectively. And I think the example that I gave would be a way of doing that. You don't want added stress on your shoulder. If I can alleviate some of that stress, then let me do that. Because like I said, those roles can be taken very seriously. Doesn't mean it's a power thing. Doesn't mean you do what I tell you to do. Because there are definitely going to be situations that's going to come up that my wife is going to be better at than I am. She's going to be smarter in some areas than I am. And at that point, I will listen. I will always listen, but I will even take her ideas and say, okay, look, your idea is a better idea. That's a part of being a leader. So you have to be a good follower to be a good leader. You got to be able to listen to your partner to be a good leader. So it's not all about that type of power, but if I'm making a final decision for the family, it's because that's my role that I'm in. If I listen to you and I listen to me, I feel like mine is better. That's because I honestly feel like my idea would be better. And because if I drop the ball in some sort of way and the family takes a hit, I'm held responsible. If I allow you to go ahead and we take your idea and it doesn't work out or the ball drops, it's still on me. So that's why it's so important. But it's all about finding the right type of man who you can trust with making those type of decisions. And I think that sometimes we're lacking in that area. That's my 2 cents.
So I would add to that situation. I think I get what you're saying. So you're saying obviously if you listened well, you'd have got the right kind of situation is sorted. I think for me, I personally would do it slightly different, and in the sense of the decision making isn't requiring of an immediate decision, meaning the house is not closing tomorrow. Like, it's like, oh, we need to sign. So I could, the time being not of essence, means we can have a democratic decision making situation here, which is I can talk to you and say, hey, that's fine, Mary, you come back. I can have a situation where we can go and see the house. You like the house, okay, blah blah, let's buy the house, right? I can be more democratic because it doesn't require an immediate decision, right? But let's say now the house is about to, like, they're saying it's got to market tomorrow. We need to put a bid in, and you know what? The house probably potentially going to be ours. It's a unique situation. Then in that scenario, there may need to be an autocratic decision making, meaning I may say, babe, the house is going to close tomorrow. You might be saying, I don't know if it's a good idea. So, babe, I'm going to go with it. Right? Because there are scenarios where sometimes there needs to be an autocratic decision making. There's no, or an authoritarian one, where there's no time to really have a long out, drawn out discussion about the situation. Do you know what I'm saying? That's where, that's what we're talking about, good leadership, because I should have built up that trust in that moment to be able to take that decision. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about day one. You never met me before. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know me, and I'm just going off and making decisions. I'm talking about you. There's been you've seen my work, and you've seen my leadership up until this point. So there are going to be times where there are bigger purchases or bigger decision making where there may need to be an autocratic decision making. You can trust that because you know what my history is with you. You know what I mean? And so I think there are different scenarios that require potentially different elements of leadership in the way that we go about it. Do you know what I'm saying? But you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, and I think this is where we fall back onto a line of, which is what we're talking about all the time, is no matter what happens, you are going to be held responsible as a man, right? You're going to be held responsible. What happened to your family? They're going to ask that question. Why did your family not work out? Right? You didn't make the right decision. Why is your family in this situation? We're looking at you, you know? So yeah, so go on, Corey.
Oh no, you're okay, man. I don't know, Coach, or the audience members, you guys watch a show called Selling Sunset.
Oh yeah.
In the episode of Selling Sunset, one of the realtors, the lady, went and put an offer on the house without having any discussion with her husband. So if we were to flip that around and say that was us, Coach Sean, what's up, man? If we were to say that that's us, our wife did that to us, you know, how would that make us feel as the men are supposed to be the head? You know, so I see what you're saying. Like, there are situations where it wouldn't be immediate, but in that particular situation, it wasn't an immediate thing. It was a good deal, good offer, something like that. So when that comes up and it is an immediate decision that needs to be made, you have to trust me as your husband that I'm going to make the best decision for us. You know, so that's what's important to me. It's about the trust for the split second decision, the ones that I don't have time to come and have a conversation with you about. That's what's important to me, is that you trust me in those areas.
And you know what's funny about that point is, let's say I had a wife that was in retail. I'm not a retail expert. If babe says, listen, it's a good deal, I'm like, babe, listen, if you say it's a good deal, I'm trusting you to take it's a good deal. It's not my area, bruv. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not my area. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna ask maybe one or two questions, maybe clue myself up a little bit, like, babe, like, why do you think it's a good deal? X, Y, Z. But after that, the ball's in your court. I'm gonna trust you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna trust you because this is your area of expertise now. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that's where we have to start working as, like you said it earlier on, working as a team, you know, where there are certain areas of our marriage or relationship with some people where, you know, you're not an expert. You're not an expert. If my missus knows how to do taxes, I'm not arguing with you about what tax. I'm not arguing with you. This is your expertise. Like, that's where I'm talking about, where us as men can miss it. It's like, if I'm arguing about stuff that I don't have a clue on, and then I'm arguing from a standpoint where I have no information. This is what I was saying earlier on about when I was 18. That when you argue from that standpoint, you're moving mad. then at that point, you're not moving as a leader. You're moving as somebody who's a controlled, dominant tyrant. You know what I mean? That you're trying to have your hand on every single pot. Baby, if you tell me there's a good business deal and this is your area of expertise, babe, okay, you said that. Okay, what's the ROI on this, man? Okay, this is what you're expecting. Okay, cool. This is what we're expecting. Okay, So that if things go left and we go, babe, what happened? I'm gonna look at you and be like, babe, what happened? We're gonna have to sort this out now. And we're in this together. We're gonna sort this out. But I trust you in that moment, though, to take that decision because this is your area of expertise. But it still comes down to meaning.
But if that house, if somebody said if someone fall through that house, who's it going to be on? Is it on you or is it on her?
Well, obviously it's on her name, but it's still me because as a leader of the family, it's still on me. So you can't be I'm passive. You know what I mean? You're still involved, but you trust the person to take a decision. So
it goes with knowing your partner, right? That's why you have many conversations before you even entertain the idea of getting married. You know, so when you know your partner, if you have a hands-off type of partner when it comes to what their profession is, or you know, if he had a stand back reaction to like, okay, hey, whatever you say, go, but that wasn't in this particular case. Like he wanted to be a part of buying the house. So because she knew that, that's when you do have to take that extra effort to involve your husband, whether you are a professional or not. Once you know your partner, not just your wife, but your partner, to know what they want to be a part of, you have to include them a part of it. So the same thing goes for me. So if I'm saying that as a husband, I want to be able to pick out a house and say, okay, babe, here are the keys, let's go. If she already voices the fact that she wants to be a part of the house buying process, I have to include my wife. Because she already had that conversation with me that she wants to be a part of it.
Love that.
See what I'm saying? So it's a little bit different. No, you know, the situation can change here and there for different people. But again, that comes with effective leadership, being able to listen and being able to follow through. So that's huge for me.
Love that. Sean, what you saying, bro? I know you jumped into the conversation midway. I don't know what you heard. I don't know what
I heard we out here buying houses.
Doing it big, man. Got to do it big.
Going big,
buying
baby.
houses. Okay, I like it.
What's your thoughts, bro? I don't know if you caught up to what conversation we were having just now, but why?
Well, look, you see my screen name, right? Ain't no way.
Ain't no way. Ain't no way, boy.
Ain't no way. Ain't no way.
Ain't no way, boy.
But you know, listen, if it works for Ricky Williams, you know, and I heard like bits and pieces of the conversation. I know you had another young lady on here with you earlier, and my little summation is that, look, you do what you want to do. You know, one of the things I learned, you know, from being married, you do what works for you and works for your marriage. But I guess if I had an issue, I have an issue for his rationale. In terms of changing his last name and saying like, oh, because she's an attorney and whenever she's with him, he always gets most of the attention because of his NFL background, right? So he wants her to feel like, you know, she gets a voice and there's more balance in their relationship. And then he made this remark, which to me was steeped in a little bit of self-hate rhetoric. You know, oh, well, my name comes from the slave masters anyway, so it doesn't really mean anything. Well, where does her name come from, sir? You know, and I don't know if this woman is European, Spanish, or Portuguese, or whatever her background. I think she's whatever. Anyway, long story short, her name is from a colonizer too, bro. So what are you embracing? You know, the only way I would buy that if he married an African woman who had a traditional African last name, right? Because now you're connecting back to your roots, but her last name doesn't connect to you and to who you really are as a person. So when I hear him say that, to me, it's like, yeah, distance yourself from yourself. So that's the problem I have with it. Anything else? Yeah, you know, do what you want to do. But if you don't want to change it, you know, if a woman doesn't want to change their last name, I'm not really going to tussle too much about it. I know we had that conversation and it came up when Sabrina and Ready to Love this last season was going back and forth with Demetrius around that. Me, if we have kids, I just expect that we're going to be on the same page with the kids. All right. You know, anything else from there, If you feel that attached to your last name, you want to keep it, you want to do what you want to do, I'm not going to fight about that, because sometimes I think we spend too much energy fighting about these hypothetical situations, or we fight about things that really at the end of the day aren't going to change anything. Because if we're together and our core values align and we're on the same page about everything, but you're just like, you know what, professionally or for whatever other reason, you don't want to change your name, and everything else is lining up, then I'm not going to fight with you about that name change, because I got to see the bigger picture. Now, if we tussling on every other thing and now this is the last thing and you still want to hold on to it, then that could be a sign that we probably are not, we're not yoked. We're not equally yoked, because it's just going to mean more of the same coming down the pike. So I think you got to assess that situation, knowing the relationship you're in, knowing the man and the woman that are in that relationship, and then make a decision from there.
You make a good point, Sean. You make a good point. And I think you're making a point that I was trying to make earlier, that men are different. You have certain things that are more important to certain men that are not as important to others. To me, that is very important to me, that my wife has my last name. So because it's important to me, I hear what you're saying also about, people, you have to choose your battles. That's a battle I'm willing to fight. For me, you know what I mean? But for you, it's not. And I think that's what I really want to relate that to the audience, that you have different men that are willing to fight certain battles and not willing to fight others. Find the ones who are willing to fight the same battles you're willing to fight, and find the ones who's not willing to fight the same ones. Find someone who you're aligned with. So that's really the bottom line. So I appreciate you saying that.
I'm with you, bro, because I ain't wasting no time with that girl who's going to do that. I'm just going to be honest with you now. No woman who's out here saying they ain't going to change their last name should be coming anywhere near me. Okay?
Right.
Thank you.
What about hyphenated, Coach?
I don't even think about it. Don't even dream about it. Don't even dream about it. No, I'm being serious. I'm being serious. Don't even dream about it. Don't even, because the reason why I'm saying that is because gender roles doesn't change. Like, it, as much as women talk about equality, which I'm down for pushing the markers further and further in each generation, it doesn't change. That's why I said about that gentleman with his girl. We all still expect that man to protect his woman. It doesn't change. You know what I'm saying? We talk about this generation, how men should financially provide. We are calling people who do 50-50 roommates. So I don't want to hear anything about taking the last name and hyphenating it, because you're going to call me a roommate when I say, well, then pay 50-50. Since I'm responsible for you and you lot are responsible for yourselves, fantastic, beautiful. Let's go 50-50. Then I become a roommate.
Yeah.
No. So I'm gonna take the last name, and I'm gonna take my responsibility with it. Okay, I'm gonna take my leadership role seriously, and I'm gonna love you in my leadership role. But there's no way you're gonna call me and tell me, Coach, let's hyphenate the last name. And the reason why I say that also is because I think for me personally, when I considered it when I was younger, one of my first girlfriends ever, when I considered it from a place of 1, poor leadership. 2, my masculinity was in the bin. Yeah. 3, I was living in fantasy land when it came to women and men. All right. And 4, I was in awe of this girl. Never again would I be in that position. I'm so sorry. The world is real. The world is cruel, and the world is cold. So I better perform my gender role appropriately. You understand? Okay. So for me, I don't want to hear any chat about taking hyphenated names for me. Just going to say that straight.
You think, if you think about the ceremony, right? The father walks the bride down the aisle, and he gives her away to the husband, right? A part of that ceremony, it's giving him away, means that's now your responsibility. So when I say responsibility, I truly mean that. I'm supposed to make sure you want and need for nothing as your husband. So with that responsibility, he's giving you to me. That means that his name is staying with him, and now you take on my name. That's just always been how I view that ceremony. And I could be wrong about it, but it's how I view, because it makes sense to me. So yeah.
Sean?
Yeah, what I'll say is so interesting, and most everybody knows I've been married, right? So, and I married a woman that had been married before and had children, right? So I had my ideas of what I wanted to happen, right? Because ultimately I wanted her to take my last name. But one of the things that I learned, and I don't know if this is just was her personality or if it was just sometimes it's human nature. I had to step back and stop pushing it, right? I had to tell her what I wanted or what I would like, and then I had to like step back, you know. And I think sometimes when you push, you can push somebody right out of a decision. So I stepped back. I said, hey, listen, this is what I would like. And she just went on and she did everything. I didn't have to like bother her. I didn't have to keep making it an issue. Ultimately, she decided to change her last name legally. And what she did was, you know, while her kids were still school age, she kept her name on the school records, on the school documents, the same last name as her kids. But legally, her last name and my last name was the same. So for me, I was like, it's a win-win. Now, listen, I'm just sharing an example from what I learned and in my experience. And I just said, I'm not going to push the issue. And I don't think this is one of those things that when you're in it, you'll figure it out, right? Like if it's, like Corey said, if it's a deal breaker for you, then it's a deal breaker for you. And the way I kind of understood it was like, listen, we've evolved. It's something that doesn't necessarily have to happen. A lot of women professionally, they change their last name and then God forbid the marriage doesn't work out, they're stuck with the last name that's not theirs, and then maybe they have to shift back. It can be tedious. Some women, you know, have, you know, whether you're a doctor, you're an attorney, there's certifications that go along with your last name. So changing all of that means a lot of upheaval, right? And is it really worth it to do that? So those are some things that you could, you know, could talk about. I think Seaway may be joining us later and she could, you know, get more into that and what that might mean. But I think like I had to sit back and realize, like, is it something that really means that much to me? Right now, again, I'm saying I'm not changing my last name because for me, I think that is feminine.
Wait, so wait.
I do.
So you ain't changed your name. Why are you not gonna change your name, bro?
Because I think it's feminine. It's not something that is traditionally done, at least from my cultural reference.
So would it be masculine to then her to take your name? If you're saying it's feminine for you to take her name, would it not be masculine for her to take your name?
You mean for her to not take my name?
Would it not be masculine of you for her to take your last name? Since it's feminine for you to take her last name, could it be said, not saying it is, could it be said that the opposite would be then she would take your last name because that's masculine?
I mean, I guess I see it as traditionally women have taken on their husband's last name. So I'm not trying to redefine, you know, I'm not trying to redefine our gender roles. You know, I'm not at that point, you know, like I'm not in a point where I just want to uproot the whole system. I'm saying that I've evolved enough to be able to say, like, listen, if you don't want to do it, then you don't have to. But I'm definitely not going to change my last name because traditionally in America, now I see some people out there that their husbands have changed their last name. Listen, I don't know. There was some cultural reference tied to that. My cultural context in America, where I'm from, for me, from everything that I know in America, men change their last names. Men don't change their last names. Women change their last names, right? If they do it in a marriage. So for me, it seems a reversal of the masculine role if I'm going to change my last name. Right. So absolutely. So Felicia Cooper stated it, right? So in Africa, some Hispanic cultures, they do that. But I'm not in that culture. I don't acknowledge that culture. That's not a culture that I'm subscribing to. So for me, I wouldn't do it. If I was a man living under those terms and conditions, maybe, but I'm not. And so I wouldn't.
100. I hear you. Real spit. That's real spit. Mariband, welcome back to the conversation. What's your thoughts? Are you hearing the conversation? What's your thoughts now?
Yeah, that was a lot. I I want to go back a little bit about what is it, Corey? What Corey was saying about the housing thing, because people were, as I was looking at the comments, people were like kind of not, I don't know, people were freaking out about the idea of getting the house without consulting the woman or whatever. What he was saying about that was, from how I understood it, what he's saying is y'all have already had the conversation, so he knows what she wants. And that got me thinking about a few days ago you were doing, Kojo, a thing where you were talking about men need to dream. And I was thinking, because I had already been thinking that, like, as a couple, you need to also dream. And so you need to have had these conversations before, way before it's going to be a decision, before you're even married. Like, I had the conversation in my relationship within a couple weeks, I'm pretty sure, of just meeting him. We were like talking about what kind of houses we liked and what kind of home decor we liked and stuff like that. So you need to have these conversations and know each other and dream together. And I think that's when you're able to, when a man is able to like lead, is when you know that person well enough and what they need and what they want, and y'all have had these conversations already. So I don't mind something like that if you have it, if you already have it up there, and I don't have to do any of the extra work, because I don't know if you shopped for a house before. It is not fun. It is a lot of stress. I think that's when it's okay. It's not always okay for everybody, but it's okay if you had that that dreaming together and those conversations together and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I definitely with you. Go on, Corey.
Yeah, I just want to put some of the rest I saw in the comments. They were wanting to know that if I pick the house and drop the keys off to my wife, say this is our house, am I paying the mortgage? That's absolutely correct. Yes, I am paying 100% of the mortgage. So it's another thing that for me, if I make a decision, a financial decision for our relationship on my own, I'm accepting that financial responsibility on my own. So in this particular situation, yes, I won't put my wife in a situation where she has to pay for something based on my decision. That's not how I roll. It's not how I'm going to roll as a husband.
Yeah, I'm definitely down with that. I'm seeing a conversation in the chat. I would love to be able to get the answer. Sorry, there was a question from Jay, which I'm going to answer first. But there's a conversation in the chat, which I think TTO was saying about Black women in America having reason to not change their name. So if you guys could provide the reasoning so I can understand maybe a bit more from that perspective, that would be very helpful as well.
I was wondering about that too, because I'm a Black woman in America, and I
I was wondering where that argument was coming from. So I don't know. That's what I was like. I was asking. I was hoping they would be able to provide maybe what they meant by that. So if TTO can provide what you mean by the why Black women not changing the name in America, that'll be very helpful as well. We can add that to the contribution of the conversation as well. Another round said, is there any circumstance you men would take the woman's last name? Is there any circumstance at all you would take the woman's last name? And I'm gonna just give my answer very short and sweet. I don't care if you're Michelle Obama or if you're Michelle, whatever her last name was before Obama. I will never take a woman's last name. Bearing in mind, unless God Himself shows me a vision in a dream that you take her last name and blessings and things come your way, you are never gonna see me take on my wife's last name. There is no reason for me to take her last name.
Yeah, so same thing for me. There's no reason why I would take my wife's last name. And to be quite honest, I can't think of a reason why she wouldn't want to take mine. Professional, cool. Monique, the comedian, her name professionally is Monique, but her last name is Hicks. She took her husband's last name. You can still use your professional name, but legally have my last name. So it's really no excuse.
That's cool. That's very, very true. Very, very true. Definitely hear that. Sean, could you, any under circumstances, is there any circumstances?
What? Change my last name?
Yeah.
No, there's no circumstance.
Okay.
Would any of you create like a new name? I mean, here's the thing. Before I say that,
Go for it.
I guess it's really about how strongly a person feels about it. So that's another reason why if you feel strongly about it, you have to have that conversation like really, really early on, so that person has the time to be like, how do I feel about this? How do I think about this? Because if you both have like a strong feeling about it, then you gotta either, get on the same page or realize this person for me. And that's about anything really. It's not just about your last name. But I think people, if that's going to create strife in your relationship, or that you have to do this in order to create balance in your relationship, you didn't have some important conversations like way earlier than as early as you should have. Like, this is like one of the kind of fundamental like first things. So I can't understand. I understand that it can be a big thing, but I don't understand why you would let it be a big thing at that point where you have gotten to that time in your relationship,
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. But I will say this though. If it's a conversation of you battling between the last name versus having me as your husband, take the last name. There's no match. Take the last name, because I should definitely be the clear choice. If I'm not the clear choice in the matter, no, we don't need to be together.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, I'm not even trying to deal with a woman who's gonna have the argument with me. I don't even want to. You're not in my vicinity. I can't see you. I can't even breathe the same way you're breathing. You understand? You're on Mars. I'm on Venus, and it's even the wrong way around. But it doesn't matter. We're in different planets. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it wouldn't even be a conversation. Like, we're not about to have a debate about the situation. I'm not trying to persuade you. If you're not on the same keel, because for me, the reason why I'm saying this is because I look at things as a prevention rather than trying to cure the stuff, right? Because of the society that we're in, most of us subscribe to certain aspects of society. We subscribe to certain traditions and cultures of that society, right? Patriarchal, if you want to call it as that. There are aspects of that we all subscribe to. For me, if you weren't going to take my last name, I can already see there's going to be a whole host of problems coming up later on in you following my lead. Because already from the very buck and jump, we're talking about socially how we conform. Because remember, we're conforming to a society's rules, right? You already saying you don't want to take last name. I already know we're going to have problems in the future. I don't need to be with someone like that. Simple as. Do you know what I'm saying? It's minute. But for me, a roof doesn't cave in overnight. It caves in when 1 tile is missing, 2 tiles, 3 tiles, 5 tiles, 10 tiles. That's how it's going to be. So I don't mind if a woman wants to do that. Find the right guy, right, who's happy to do that. But me and myself, with a certain level of masculine energy I'm carrying right now, I can't do it. You understand? I just can't do it. And what I found is, from what I've seen, anytime this conversation comes up where a woman says, I'm going to keep my last name, I've also seen a lot of masculine energy. So the person you're going to date and marry is also going to be feminine. I'm so sorry. That's my particular thought. That's just me. I'm just saying that. That's my particular thought. Yeah. So that's what I've seen. But it doesn't mean it's the absolute truth. It just means that's what I've seen. So again, as for me and my masculine house, I can't do it. We are going to serve one name. One name. It won't be the wives. I'm so sorry. And you know that conversation that happens as well where they say, yeah, like, I'm the only child. I don't care. Then it's not me. I'm your husband. Find someone else. I'm not hyphenated. I don't care if you're the last child in that family and no one else is taking the name. That's your business. Then we don't need to be together. It's just honestly that simple. I have to be principled. And something I always say to people about us as men is, the moment that you're not principled as a man, get ready to lay out the rug, because you're going to become the rug. You are going to join the rug and they're going to walk all over you. So stick to your principle, good or bad, whichever you feel it is. But me and my house, hey, hyphen what? Hyphen no, we can't do it here. See, wait, you're looking at me. Go for it.
You're killing me.
Yeah,
what
talk
are
to me, man. Talk to
what
me.
are these absolutes that you're speaking in? I'm hearing a lot of
Go for it.
absolutes, a lot of
Go for it.
if this, if that. I mean, I don't think every woman that doesn't, and it's never every, so I know you're not saying every single one, but I don't necessarily think, like Sean said earlier, I was listening, you know, if a woman wants to keep her name, that she's automatically carrying masculine energy. And I would challenge you to hold on to this video, because you may be surprised at what happens in the future. You just never know, you know, what type of woman may be doing what that may change your mind, because I don't think that's necessarily true. I think for me, yeah, I just haven't changed my name yet. I also haven't made it a big deal. Like, it's not going to be like some pivotal, you know, conversation. But like Sean said, when you meet a professional woman who has her career and law degrees and all this type of stuff in her name, you know, I just feel like men don't take into account what women do, and it's our fault, because we make things look easy. We make going to the social security office look easy. We make going to the passport office, even though we can't get an appointment right now, look easy. We make, you know, and then as soon as the relationship falls apart, then some dudes go, give me my name back, and we make that look easy. And that's also embarrassing, shuffling your name back and forth after a marriage doesn't work out. So I'm just saying, I just feel like, you know, people have a right, and it is not, there's a lot of, I know, very masculine men. I feel like it takes more masculinity to know that my wife's respect of me is not about whether or not she takes my name. Like, how masculine do you have to be rocking it and be like, my wife is Christian, insert my last name, and my name is insert my last name, and this is still my wife, but she's an individual, and she has her name, and she has a law degree with her name on it. And I'm not going to sit here and be changing all of these names and all these jurisdictions, so I feel like I got a big dick contest. I just don't feel like that's necessarily true, you know, and I can still be a feminine person without that. But I will say, if you have a man that's going to stand 10 toes down and say, if you don't take my last name, I'm out, listen to that man, respect that man, and go on your way. And the same thing goes the other way. If you have a woman who says, you know what, I want to keep my name, don't try to change her either. You know, I just think you could be missing out on, you know, a good relationship being caught up over something like that. Because at the end of the day, I just think this name thing is kind of silly. And of course, in other cultures, I know, Sean, this is America, but, you know, it is a very, you know, our culture thing about this surname thing. And I just want to say, because I didn't get a chance to talk about that black man who's taking his wife's name. He's taking that lady's name because he wants to be white, and because he's trying to get close to his Caucasian ancestors that he's saying he's running from.
Seaway, why do you say that I just wanted to pause at what you just said. How can you get to make a judgment about him taking the last name of a woman that he is trying to acclimatize to being white? But when I say that you are being more masculine when you don't take my name, that's not an equation we can make. Why would we make? I'm agreeing with you, by the way.
I'm talking about this particular situation. No, I'm talking about this.
Finish your point. I interrupted you. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go on, finish your point. Apologies.
Oh, no. I'm just not making an overall generalization about all men who want to take women's name. There may be multiple reasons why a man will want to take a woman's name. He could have been maybe adopted. Maybe he doesn't feel close to his name. Or maybe, you know, he had a horrible relationship with his father and he doesn't want to carry that name anymore. I'm just thinking of lots of different reasons why I don't like absolutes, why I feel like there may be a reason that a man will want to just either create a new family name, maybe take her name if he really loves her father. I could just think of lots of things. I think in this particular situation, and I'm trying not to get on my Cynthia G stuff, so I'm going to try to backtrack because I think I went too deep on her lane. But this particular man ain't making no sense. You're talking about you don't want the slave master's name of Williams, but you want your white queen's last name? the math isn't mathing. I think that's his whole situation is giving house Negro. And then he's putting in the name of, I want to support her femininity. It has nothing to do with that. He's a disgrace. And it has nothing to do with taking a woman's name. It's his overall situation and his white queen, so he can go off and be blessed. But that's all that's about.
Wait, see, how are you gonna say it's not about him taking a last name? That is all it ever is. Isn't that the only thing he's done? So it is about the last name, which is fair. I agree with you, by the way.
I just think that is pushing, like, that's like Clarence Thomas to the nth degree. Like, you want to take. My thing is keep the slave masters out of your BS, okay? Like, don't say that you don't want your slave master's name, but you're toting your white queen. I just need consistency here when it comes to him.
I'm not arguing with you on that one. See, wait, I'm with you on that one. Maryband, do you want to say something?
Oh, my mama watching and she says I'm a trip.
Hey, mama.
I agree with your mom. Oh man! Wow,
Yeah,
that was
so. See, wait, did you catch the first portion of the show?
Yeah, I was watching a good amount. Then I was doing my work, so I may have missed something in between. But I was watching y'all in the beginning before Sean came on.
Kojo and I were saying that that's our personal preference. We're not saying this for all men, or that all women should take their husband's last name. We're just saying for us, it's a deal breaker.
No, Kojo just made sweeping generalizations talking about women are masculine. No, I'm talking about what Kojo.
To me, I said to me it is. I said
no,
to me.
No, not just to you.
Masculine.
Then you said if a woman is talking about she keeping her name, oh boy, then you got some masculine energy. She's gonna be burning the house down.
I said that's to me. That's to me.
Yeah, he did say all the situations I've been in. It's come with.
That's what I'm saying. To me, when I look at it, what I've seen, this is what I've seen. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm saying it's more of a masculine situation, right? And it for me, that's what I've seen. I've seen also when you do that, there's often a contention in terms of leadership. That's why I said that it starts from small, because the very thing that you're talking about, I agree. Like how you judge the Ricky Williams situation is simply based on what he did in changing his name. And you came up with a large judgment, very large, broad, instantly lambasted him, which I didn't agree. I didn't disagree with. I agreed with you.
I judged him by the white queen alone. I'm not even gonna lie to you. The
okay,
name
there you go.
Added, just to be honest.
But that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying to you that you see how you quickly made a whole statement is how we also, how sometimes, and I'll say myself again, and anybody who agrees with my particular perspective, that's how we're also looking at it too. Because naturally, as human beings, we make sweeping general statements. Why we make general judgments based on an action. So when I say that, okay, for me, when I'm looking at it, the same way you saw that when that man took that woman's name, you instantly said, "Oh, there's a whole other names that were coming into your head as well, which you couldn't say on the platform, which we were all thinking, okay, but we'll leave the Caucasoid alone." But you know, we all thought the exact same thing, which is, bruh, nah, he's being feminine if he's taking a woman's name, because we all made a judgment based on him just taking the name alone. So I'm saying the reverse has to also be, we have to also be open to that reverse, because how quickly we're able to make a judgment on a man change his name for white queen. And then now when I'm saying that if you didn't take my last name, I can also see it as potentially being masculine in the way that you don't want to take that role on. You want to have your own name. I can potentially see it as that, because you're making a sweeping judgment about Ricky Williams. Me too, I'm making a sweeping judgment about if women didn't want to take my name, that's how I'm going to see it. So that's what I was kind of making that point in that regard, that there's going to be sweeping statements and sweeping judgments on both sides. I get why someone might not want to do it, and I'm not saying that they're wrong for doing that. I'm saying for me, it can't be. And I said, for me personally, I would see it as a masculine move, and I'll hold that frame and I'll stand on it 10 toes down. Yeah, I will. Now I'm making my mind in a few years' time, but for now,
but it wasn't just. I mean, if you look, and I think Felicia said that. If at first I was like going with this, like, oh, maybe it's because he's trying to support his wife's femininity, but that didn't really add up. And then if you go on the internet, he's done a lot of questionable things. So it wasn't just that it was just because he took the woman's name. That's what I'm saying. Like, do I know him personally? No. Could I be wrong? I mean, we're wrong about a lot of stuff with people we don't know on YouTube. We could be wrong. But from what the streets are saying, on top of his white queen, on top of taking his last name, her last name, on top of talking about he didn't want his slave master's last name, but he's walking around with the offspring of his slave master, it just doesn't really make sense. And so that's why I was saying that. But you guys do have a right to feel the way you feel. And maybe for some people, like let's say insert Sabrina, maybe the issue about the last name is a small, like the tip of the iceberg of a bigger domination, masculine, feminine issue in a relationship. But I'm saying there's a lot of people who are very submissive that may be keeping their name for different reasons. I wouldn't say very submissive, but they may have.
Who? Last week I gave a great example. I said Michelle Obama is Michelle who? Thank you.
That's Michelle Obama. I said,
Michelle,
say,
that's the person you guys are always doing. And Michelle is who? Michelle who?
Michelle Obama.
But she's still bomb.
I will say though, out of all the people, I'm in my young 30s now, so you see all your friends get married. It's actually the minority of women who have just completely taken the name. Every single person, and maybe because I'm in a professional setting, have either hyphenated their name, done the 2 last names, or not taken the name at all. So I think things may be catching up. We may not see it yet, but I'm just saying I literally went to darn near 10 weddings, and I will say 8 out of 10 hyphenated their name, did the 2 last names, or did not take a name.
So can I ask a question? When you're talking about hyphenating, they're both hyphenating or just the woman? Because I've seen a lot. The woman hyphenates, but the man keeps his last name. Are you talking about both of them?
Oh no, 0 out of 10. The man changed his name at all. I'm just the women.
Okay. Just because I think it's instinctual. I think it's like one thing I feel like I've learned about men that I did not know is how like legacy and the next generation is like instinctual for men. So if you're gonna just like easily give your name away that easily, it's like, or not create something yourself, not generate something yourself, it's like, can you trust his instincts that he's just gonna kind of erase himself? That's like, there's more to it. Like, I know, like, in a way it's like, this is silly, like it's a name, but at the same time it's symbolic of a lot of things. It's like, that's like kind of like your foundation on paper and your legal foundation just for the rest of your legacy. So do you not want one?
Yeah, I think that last name plays a different part with a lot of different men. Women who don't want to change it, it's important to them for whatever reason. Men who do want to change it, who's okay with change, it's important to them for whatever reason, or want to keep their own last name and have their woman to change theirs, is important to them for different reasons. So I think you have that conversation. I think everybody had a good point, having that conversation ahead of time. Once you realize this is somebody who is husband material for you, you need to have that discussion. Don't wait until he proposes and then have the big discussion then. You should have it up front, save you guys some time, trouble, energy. I think that's it, but I think it's also good to have that conversation to see why is it so important to that man? Why is it so important to that woman who's ever giving you the hard time about it? You can ask them, why is this an issue for you? You can always respect their issue, but just still choose to go another way, respectfully.
There's a question in the chat about what do women have to do in professional settings by Queen. I don't want to.
Most people, if they get a divorce, they still just, or I don't know if it's most, but a lot of people, they just keep that last name. Like, they don't change their name back.
No, not true.
No, from what I've seen.
No, they changed that name.
I think it depends if they have kids or not. But that's not, the Queen asked a different question.
Mm-hmm.
Saying, how do you change? What do you do when you have degrees? So,
that question. Yeah.
I'm familiar with the law school, and then my mother's a doctor, so the medical side. But I can just speak to the legal side. You have to change. You have to go to your university. I don't know about undergrad. I don't know how much people care, but like you would have to go to your professional university and then send in not a motion, but a petition to have your degree changed. They have to reprint your degree. And that's the less annoying part. But then when you're licensed, you have to, if you're licensed in multiple states like I am, you have to motion the Supreme Court in each of those states to get your name changed on the roll. And when you do that, then because you cannot practice under a different name, this is for medicine and legally on law and med side with a different name, then you're actually legally. So if there's like a in between, let's say like you change your name on one thing and you change your name on another, you may not be able to appear in court. I've seen people like you either have to appear in court on your old name. It's just a logistical nightmare. And for me, the pettiest side is I like to travel and you still cannot get a passport appointment. So it's easy for me to go to the Social Security office and change my name. That's the easy part. But then I can't have a different name on my Social Security card than I have on my passport. And then I have to wait 6 months or 4 months to get a passport. Coach, I ain't trying to be stuck. I am not trying to be stuck.
I hear you.
So
I hear you. That's why I can't see you. That's why I can't see you. It's that simple.
So you know, it's hard. It is hard. It's a lot to do. You know, maybe especially in COVID times, you know, like before COVID, I think it was, you know, this stuff went easier. Like you can walk to the passport agency in Chicago. It's not a big deal. You still cannot get an appointment like right now, unless it's like, I have a flight next week. So I don't know. It's just a lot to deal with. You know, people do what they want to do, but I will say though, most women I know who are changing their name, they still don't not changing their name. They still don't expect their kids to have their hyphenated name. Like even the women who are keeping their name, I think they're still very much so okay with the man's name being for the kids. I don't see anyone talking about, I want my kid's name to be this name, you know, hyphen that name. So like the man's legacy lives on. It's just about like what this individual person wants to do. I think it's a different conversation if you're saying, I want the kid's name to be my name, or I want to hyphenate everybody's name. You know, it's a different conversation.
No, I'm definitely hearing that. Someone said I didn't think about all that. Technically I actually did. I just don't care. I told you I'm not focused on that. I told you, like, when I set my stall in something, I set my stall in something. Like what she's explained is that it's a very difficult process. Life is difficult. Marriage was not easy when you conjoined just what you signed up for. So for me, it's like, okay, I hear that, but the difficulty of that's life. Things are difficult. You know what I'm saying? So the sacrifice is in that when we came together, that is the sacrifice. There are sacrifices on my end. And sometimes what I hear when sometimes, like, let's say, like we're saying right now, right? I said, if I say right now, all right, cool. See what we're going to go 50-50. Come and see the comments in the chat. Be like, well, life is hard. Why shouldn't we go 50-50? Well, you're a man. So I'm like, listen, I hear it. I'm just saying, I don't care. This is what I believe, that this is the lane I want to fall into. Then maybe I might change my mind in a few years' time. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I might change my mind in a few years' time. But I'm saying for me, I don't care about that. I care about this, the lane that I'm in, and that's the lane I'm going into. So I personally wouldn't then conjoin myself with somebody who didn't have the same mindset as me. Then that would be my error. Then that means I'm already, first and foremost, not being a great leader. Because I'm already choosing something that somebody does not agree with the way that I want to operate. That means I'm also being a very poor leader because I'm choosing poorly. You know what I mean? So that's an error on my part for not choosing correctly. That's even what I talk about. That's what I said about things from the very beginning. That's why I said the name thing's an issue thing, because it's at the very beginning. This conversation shouldn't have not waited till we got to the marriage altar and I'm looking at you in your eyes, about to unveil you, and I'm like, babe, are you taking my last name? Oh, are you going to keep last? No, we're not having a conversation then. We're supposed to have a conversation miles before then. Do you know what I'm saying? So if I do that, I'm creating error on my part. And I think this is what me and Corey were talking about. It's not just a name. It's as a leader, you are responsible. And you should take accountability for, right? So as a responsible man, I'm taking accountability for the fact that, hey, listen, if I got to the end and that's when I asked you, then I'm a poor leader. I've missed my job. Do you know what I mean? So, but I definitely hear what you're saying, Siwe, and that's something to take into account, the difficulty of having to change your name. I'm saying for me, it couldn't be. It couldn't be. It couldn't be. You know what I mean? Can I ask you a question though? Seaway, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If Mr. Obama was to marry you, would you take his last name?
It's not about the man.
Hypothetical. I'm just asking a question. So you wouldn't take his last name. You would keep it as it is.
I don't like that last name, first of all.
Oh, damn. That's not what we're asking, darling. That's not what we're asking, Seaway. All right. What name do you like then? Give me a name that you like.
I had to think of a name I really like. I don't know.
Okay. Whatever name you really, really like.
I mean, there's some names I really like. You know what I'm saying? That sound like saucy with my name, you know? But the thing is, it's like, it's not about that. Because now I'm about to be on a whole nother rabbit hole. No, it's not about that. It's not about, I think that's what you're trying to make it. It's not about the man, you know? If I married Obama, that's even more reason to keep my name. Because that's why Michelle writing books now talking about she's lost in his shadow. You gotta keep, you didn't go to the tour. I don't know if she toured in London, but that was like half the tour was about how she was doing this tour and she didn't even want him to come out on the tour because she was tired of that man being in his shadow. She loved him, but I'm just saying, like, she's still Michelle. Like, she was a boss before him, and she doesn't want to be in his shadow.
This is a really good conversation to segue it to, though. But sorry, go on. Sorry, Mariband, go first, and then I'll segue.
It's not about the man. It's about me.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for answering the question. So you wouldn't take Mr. Obama's last name?
Why is somebody saying "girl, bye"?
Don't worry about them. They're saying "go bye." They're saying stuff to me. They're saying I'm controlling at one point. They're saying all that manner of stuff. So don't worry about that, Seaway. I'm with you today. I'm going to be a lipstick alley with a new home thread.
If they want to fight Michelle for it, they can fight. They can tussle with Michelle.
But I think it boils down to like you made a point with Michelle, right? By saying that she feels like she's lost in Barack's shadow. I think that a lot of the times, I don't know, we're kind of going a little bit off the subject with that, but a lot of the times, women can't overthink the situation, and it doesn't appear that way to anyone else. I don't think anyone else look at Michelle Obama and say she's in Barack's shadow. I don't think anyone else will do that, but that's how she feels. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the times, a lot of overthinking takes place with the individual woman when it's not necessary to have that type of thought. Just be confident in who you are, produce what you can produce. If Barack is not trying to dim her light, then nothing else is in her way but herself. My opinion.
Go for it. Go for it, sis. Oh, Mary Brown, are you not? I thought you were going to say something. You want to say something? Go for it.
I think this kind of veered to the Michelle Obama thing a little bit. I don't think anybody in that position would not feel like you're in that person's shadow. I don't know if she still feels that way now. Like she's not in the White House anymore, and you hear more about her than you hear about him now. So I mean, I didn't get that from what I've seen from her. I'm not maybe tuned into everything, but I didn't get that. But I think you would feel that way, of course, like those 8 years or 9 years, whatever it was, including the campaigning. But I don't know. I really wanted to hear I think it's TT. I keep missing it. What she's saying about why Black women.
She did give an answer. Her answer is this. Yes, this was her answer. I don't know if TT's a girl, actually. I don't know. Sorry.
No, TT is a man.
It's a man. Sorry, apologies.
I'm
sorry. This was the reasoning he gave as a conversation, which is quite interesting, actually. I don't know if people can confirm or deny for the ladies. Seaway, can you confirm or deny? Maybe you've heard this perspective before. Maybe there's a perspective. I'm from the UK, so again, I might not understand that perspective. Do you know what I mean? But maybe there's a different perspective for Black women in America.
Yeah, then I want to say something after this. Go ahead, Seaway.
I never thought about this. So you're saying black women usually keep their last name
to trace where they came from in America, not in Africa.
I mean, it is hard. It is hard to trace your it's either way though, it's going to be lost if it's not passed on to your kids. So I don't know if that
well,
it doesn't
I guess
really help.
in modern times we got 23andMe, Ancestry.com, so it's easy to trace back where you came from. Now, I mean, I get like in the past perhaps that could have been something, but now you can trace the tribe and the country that you're from based on your genealogy. So
Probably in Russia.
well, I ain't Russian, clearly, and thank God for that.
That's why Americans always at war with them. Anyway, let me not say less because they'll damn me from this YouTube. But Mary Bade, you were going to say something. Sorry, go for it.
Oh, that was it. Or maybe there was something, but that's all. I just wanted to know what the reasoning was behind that because I didn't understand that, I guess.
Fair enough. Corey, you were going to add. You said you were going to add something.
Yeah, Sean did it for me. Ancestry.com. That's even before marriage, just after marriage. When you look yourself up, you can still look by your previous name if you want to. I don't have a problem with you putting that in Google and searching for it. But as far as legally, that's where my last name would come into play. So I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with anyone looking up their roots, find out what the history is. But that's information for you. You're not. It's not for you to necessarily have to publicize to the world. That's for you. My roots, my background, my history is for me, and I have several different last names in the family tree. I'm sure everyone at the family reunion, they do have different last names, and it just comes a part of the family. Through marriage, that's why the names changed so much, which is the point that we're making today.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, that does make it easier for your the future generations to find you and find their information if names are changing, because like you can see, oh, they got married, this is my great grandpa, or that does make it easier for anybody who has been looking for that information. It makes it easier when there's those name changes, because you can't always find the actual records.
Would you on that? Sorry, what was we going to segue onto? I do apologize. It's gone out my head. We was going to segue to another point, to another topic around what we was talking about. But it's gone out of my head. It'll probably come back to me in a few minutes. But yeah, no, this is an interesting conversation, like I said, and it's good to hear different points of view. And again, I love this. People are saying Hispanics traditionally keep their last names and add one their husbands. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Are you Hispanic? I'm not Hispanic, so I won't be following that culture. And again, that's you know what? That's making my point for me. So you're gonna follow a culture. This is my point. So now, if you're Hispanic, you're gonna follow that culture because that's the culture that's leading you. You're buying into the culture. Someone's making the rules. Someone's gonna make the rules. So whatever cult you're following, you're gonna follow that cult. So when people say Hispanic, I hear you. If Russians do it that way, that's fine. That's their culture. And so the culture we have at the moment, this is the culture we're following. I'm following that culture. You know what I'm saying? So it's very similar. Everyone's got, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're going to have to fall into some type of culture eventually. No one man is an island, unfortunately. That's the trouble even I will have. Like sometimes I was talking to a friend about this. Like feminists have this trouble. Pro-black people have this trouble. Whenever you go to the extreme of the something, right? No matter how, like if I want to be pro-black, say, I'm only buying black business. I'm only going to do black. You're going to find yourself stuck somewhere because you actually can't do it. You know what I'm saying? Because the society hasn't changed enough for you to get to that point. You can try as much as you can, but when you try to do it to the fullest extent, it gets stuck. And the same thing, feminism, right? As much as you want to be the feminist to the highest hilt, unfortunately, the world is still patriarchal. So you still have to almost navigate the system that you're actually in. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, as much as I want to be pro-black to the fullest, I also realize, brother, white supremacy, okay, is still ruling. the Caucasoid is still in power. So there's some things that I can only navigate in a particular way. So it's interesting though that we're getting these different points of views and stuff about culture and stuff. So yeah, go for it, Corey.
Yeah, I think we have to get more consistent within our thinking, to be honest with you, because you can always point at a culture for something, to be honest. So, but where are you currently? In this particular situation, you can say there are the cultures that men take their wives' last name. There are the cultures where women keep their last name. But then if a man is to say, well, there are other cultures where a woman is less than nothing, where a woman has no say-so, where a woman can't speak her mind and tell a man, her husband, what her thoughts are, because her thoughts don't matter. If we mention cultures like that, they're like, well, they don't have anything to do with me. So we got to be consistent in our thinking. Like, what we're saying is that these are our particular ideals. There are men who are open and willing to take your last name. Of course, Ricky Williams is showing you that. There are men who are open to the name not being a big issue. Sean just showed you that. And then there are men who take the last name seriously. Kojo and I are saying that. So there is a man out there that is willing to give you what you want. It's just having a little bit of patience and finding that man who fits the mold of the type of leader you want, and will have the same ideals as far as what's important to them as you do, and what's not important to them as you do. That's really what it boils down to.
We'll spit. Man, I'm trying to think of my segue. It's absolutely burning me, my segue, what it was, and it's gone out my head. What the segue is. Anyone, any other points they want to add?
Yeah, Seaway said some earlier. She said that she doesn't like the name. I'm curious, do women go by names when they're dating or even going into a marriage? Like, I don't like his last name. I know eventually he's going to ask me to take his last name. I already know I don't like his last name. So do you not date someone because you don't like their last name? Like, have you ever done that before, Seaway? No? Okay.
No, but there's plenty of people who don't like people's last name. They just won't tell you because y'all can't handle it.
But when that conversation happens where, okay, now I got to take my last name, it's like, oh.
I wouldn't cite that as a reason. I mean, you don't want to sit there and tell somebody your last name is ugly. I mean, like, how do you really like, how does that really, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's
why do you wait. Why do you want us to handle that and be okay with you saying that your last name is ugly?
That's not what I said.
Why should we handle that, C-Way?
I didn't say you had to handle it. I said I wasn't going to say it. I said I wasn't going to say it because I know y'all can't.
See, when we bringing out bazookas for you, boy. It's that boy. You
no,
know,
I got limits. I ain't Lindsay. I got limits. I wouldn't say that. If I didn't like your last name, I probably wouldn't say it.
Oh man, I'm too.
People know they got an ugly last name though, and they just, it's easier if you just put it out there so I don't have to say it. Like if you know your last name is kind of ugly, like let's talk about that. Some people don't be aware.
I can't. What is the only name I can think of that's ugly is like butt or butts. Is there more than that? I can't think of anything else. Like is the last.
I can't think of this. Let me add in ugly or basic. Let me add in basic too. Like if I have a unique last name with history and you want me to change my name, no offense to anybody in the chat, but like Smith, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm supposed to give up my last name. Let's say my last name has lots of culture and you want me to be Smith now. It's like, I guess. I don't know.
That's a good point. I mean, a lot of people want to change and not change for different reasons. I know a couple who changed her last name. She was wanted her husband to change his last name to her last name because her last name was higher up in the alphabet. So I think her name was started with a B, his started with an H or something like that, and she wanted him to have it for that. But it's different reasons that may or may not make sense to us. But it's knowing what those reasons are, respecting it, and then moving forward.
I can't believe that was the real reason.
That's
what she told him. No.
Yo, hey, names are a tough one. I'm not gonna lie to you. Actually, I'll bring something to you guys. Actually, as a someone said the segue was women losing themselves. Oh, okay. Oh, yes, that was a segue about whether women lose themselves in this changing of the name situation. And I was going to ask because this has come up on the show of LMA DC. So Love and Marriage DC, because we're talking about Michelle Obama feeling this losing herself situation. It came up on Love and Marriage DC. And I wanted to kind of maybe have a segue conversation about the fact that if you date a powerful man, is it to be expected that there is going to be some loss of self? And is it delusion to try and think that when you date a powerful man in society, I'm asking the question, that there isn't going to be this loss? Is it delusion to think that you're going to be able to maintain this absolute separate identity when you're dating a man of power, renown, status, wealth? I'm asking that question.
I think it depends on what your life was like before that person and how high of a status it is. There's going to be a change. There's going to be a big change, whether you experience that as loss or not. Kind of depends on where you were coming from first, I think. But I think if you like got into that situation and you knew they were there or almost there, and you weren't also like there, like some people meet and they're like here, and one person's like, once we get married or whatever, or we have kids, they know that they're going to come down here. Or once he get to whatever level, they know they're going to come down here. But if you don't know that's going to happen, and you're both up here, I think that's when there's like a sense of loss, because if they're up here, like, yes, you have to kind of merge into what they're doing, especially like a president or anything like that, or some huge CEO or something. You're that person's wife, and the rest of your identity doesn't matter as much anymore. So I think it depends on what you're prepared for. But also I wonder if like maybe everybody, I don't know. I think everybody experiences a loss of self whenever you experience any kind of huge transitions. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know, but that's how I feel.
Okay. See, where you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think especially the two main examples I think of is Michelle Obama and Ayesha Curry for two different reasons.
Oh, the Ayesha Curry hurts me. Yeah.
And I like those two examples because I think they both have two men that I don't believe intentionally wanted them to be less than. And I think if they could, they would build their wives up as much as they could. But the fact of the matter is, in the Michelle Obama's case, even though she was a superstar in her own right, if on either side, even if it's a woman, like Kamala Harris's husband had to take a back seat. When you're in that type of situation, no matter who you are before, you're going to have to take a back seat. And then, of course, if it lasts 8 years, you're going to lose yourself in a certain way, because especially when you were trained up to be your own type of superstar and now you're the first lady, I'm pretty sure there's an identity shift of what you thought you were going to be and what you end up being. And that happens a lot with women who are married in general, not even just the superstars. And of course, a woman who is married to someone like Barack Obama, who's literally like one of a kind, that's going to be a quite of an identity shift. And then I think of Ayesha Curry. That was even worse because we don't know her to be anything but his wife. I think she's been like fighting and scrapping to come up with her own identity, her cooking and stuff like that. And I feel like her husband tries to big her up and tries to do things. And she seems happier now since she's like out of mommy mode, lost her weight, and she seems to be finding her own self. But I think in her case too, I mean, when you have someone like Steph Curry as your husband, you're gonna lose yourself, even if they're not trying to shut you down in any way. I think for that not to happen, you need to be, Beyonce, or I don't know, maybe like, well, people say Gabrielle Union emasculates the way, so maybe that's not a good example. But I'm trying to think of other examples of that situation where it's more on like equal footing. But I'm not blaming the men in any way. I just think it's a byproduct of that situation.
Another one I think of is Prince Harry and Meghan.
Mm-hmm.
But Some of it, I don't know. I don't see Aisha Curry in that way, because to me it feels like she wants more attention than him or something. I don't know. Like, there's something weird about her. I don't see Michelle like going out of her way to do all the things like Aisha Curry has done. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like, are you competing? Are y'all a team, or like, do you have to have this separate identity? Like, do you feel like you have to have this separate thing away from that person? When it's kind of like not going to happen if they're everything to everybody. It's kind of unrealistic to imagine like, oh, everybody's going to be like, oh, but you did this. They're going to be like, yeah, you're married to that person.
Okay, so for me on this one, I will say that personally, it doesn't matter to me. If my wife is a superstar and I'm in her shadow, and the world sees me in her shadow, my mindset is not thinking about what the world thinks. I go back to my wife. Do I have my wife's respect? Do I have my wife's love? That's what matters to me. I think for me, I can't allow outside opinions to determine my value. My wife is important to me because that's who I choose to be my life partner, and I should be important to her as well. So how she views me is what's most important to me. So if I'm able to do my own thing, have my own business going, if I'm able to get money in my own way, but it's not seen in the public eye, but I'm still being able to function, I'm still able to accumulate my coins to do everything I need to do, then it doesn't matter to me. But again, that's just me. My importance is making sure that I am looked at through a good lens with my wife. That's just me.
You know what's interesting? Because that Steph Curry, Aisha Curry situation, I remember I did a video on it some years back, and I said I actually understand why she's stressed at the situation, you know, because this is the dark reality that people do not want to acknowledge. Human beings, male, female, woman, man, y'all want attention. That's the honest truth. Y'all want attention. So if one party is getting all the attention, because when you heard her actual argument, it had nothing to do with how Steph Curry was treating her. Nothing at all. It had everything to do with external sources of people looking at her. And then what happened after that? I ain't even trying to shoot her down. I'm saying she just tried to regain a bit of her external sources of attention. I'm just being real, because we all want attention here. Now we're starting to see her in bikini. Now I'm seeing your leg on your Instagram. Now I'm seeing flesh. We never saw that. And meanwhile, you were tweeting, telling people who were showing flesh that they're moving some type of way. You were condemning them. Now you realize that you want external attention, that I need to change my Christian holy art thou look and come with a little bit of thought, Christian thought in me. Okay, listen, I've got no beef with her changing her position. I'm just saying now, let's keep it real. Human beings want attention, and that attention is sometimes not enough even from your partner, because she never complained about how Steph Curry treated her. All she spoke about was the fact that Steph Curry will go away and women will just throw themselves at him. She'll be in the car and women want to throw themselves at him. It had nothing to do with Steph Curry treating her badly. So that lets me know that it don't matter how well you treat her. Every human being, man or woman, still wants the external validation in some sense or some form, in some shape. You know, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean Aisha Curry wanted a man to literally come and take her and grab her. No, but you know, you want to have a little look, you know, the guy to look at you, make you feel nice, or a little compliment, you know what I'm saying? A little something, you know, she wanted a little bit of that. And I understood it, because it's a human nature thing for me. But I think that's the difficulty of, and I think in her situation, he wasn't as grown as he is now. Same with Michelle Obama, and thing again, that shift in status for a man, and I guess being a woman in that position, it doesn't matter what I do. If you don't find it within yourself to acclimatize that situation, there's nothing actually I'm going to do differently that's going to change how you feel. Because the thing is about how people are viewing us and how they're seeing us. And I was only asking this question because it happened with it did happen with in LMDC with Ashley and Quicks and DJ Quick, where you can see that Ashley now wants to have her own brand and have her own identity outside of the marriage because of how she's viewed as DJ Quick's wife. So that, I guess, that's a problem that can exist with, I guess, a successful man or a successful woman in lead, that the other person can feel like, you know what, they aren't getting what they potentially wanted from the situation anymore, so it's not easy. You know what I'm saying? Not easy. Go for it, Red.
Yeah, here's what I think about that. I think kind of like what you were saying earlier is each person should have what they're doing. Like you have your lane, I have my lane. So if you know that person's lane is in the public eye, I understand needing external validation, but why does your validation need to come from the same public eye that person's in? Build your community around you. You should have family, you should have already had friends, a support system in your relationship. Really, I would say before you got married, and two, definitely before they became everything they became. So I don't see the need for, I see like Michelle Obama saying she felt what she felt, but I don't see the need to compete with them. And like, I feel like Aisha was kind of competing for the same amount of attention or something. And that part I don't understand, because like, why not get your own lane? To me, she's trying to get in the same, you know what I mean? Like in the same lane as him. They're both trying to be high profile entertainment, public eye people. Like that's what I don't get. I think that's where, when it's competition or you're trying to be in the same area, I think that's where you can't. It is competition. It's just always going to be competition. So you're going to compare yourself, and somebody's going to come out on top, and then you're going to feel lost or invalidated or whatever.
It's real. Love those points. V, welcome to the conversation. I know we kind of shifted the conversation slightly, but talk to me. How you feeling? What's good, man? Talk to me.
I'm good. I just wanted to put it out there. I have that boring name that Seaway was talking about. It's Smith. So
it'd be tough out here, baby.
No, but I'm all for taking the last name. I still have the last name that I had before because I wanted to match my children's last name. But I did have a professor that did hyphenate his and his wife's name, and they both changed their names. So I've seen both. But as for I think it's different when the woman is in a higher position. I heard what you said, Black Made Media, I forgot. But yeah, I think it's different when the woman is in a higher position. I think, like, say for instance, Tabitha Brown, see what they say about Gabrielle Union, when they feel like the woman is in a higher or is dominating the relationship, I think it plays out totally differently. It's actually very much looked down upon, especially if the woman is the breadwinner. So I understand the supporting of the roles, and I read Michelle Obama's book too, and she did speak about having her own voice, and I do think we get lost in the marriage if we don't try to maintain our voice. But we should be trying to build a legacy together. That's the reason you got married. So I am for taking the last name, but I think everybody should do what they want to do. But I definitely took the last name, and they were happy that I took it. So I'm for it.
I love that. Thank you.
Just real quick. I just want to talk about this real quick, Kojo. All right, so I think the thing for me is that when a marriage takes place and the husband or the wife feels like they're getting lost in the other person's image or the other person's likeness, whatever, I don't get past that, because when you marry, you become one. So because of that, it's like, if my wife is getting her you know what I'm saying, she getting that shine, I'm getting that shine too. That's how I look at it, because it's us together. We're one. So I don't look at it as a her shine versus my shine. And I think that's the part that misses me personally. Like I said, I'm not saying I'm right, not saying I'm wrong. It's just a personal view when it comes to this matter. I just see us being one. So whether it's me, whether it's her, if I shine good, she's going to look good. She shines good, I'm going to look good. So that's my view on it.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Corey. SK. What's good, man? Talk to us. What's good, man? You right, yeah?
What's good? So, I mean, as far as this topic, I mean, there are so many caveats in this whole thing, but it really depends on how you view marriage. Like, what's your whole approach to it? Is it a team sport or is it a competitive sport? Like, if your marriage is about you two coming together because you both want to build something, then that's definitely a conversation you two need to have. You need to choose what's going to happen. Everybody needs to come to that understanding. But if you're like already married, like for instance, was it Love and Marriage Huntsville? One of the people got a divorce because she didn't want to take her husband's last name like after they got married. Why wasn't that a conversation that they had before they got married? So it's stuff like that. And I put something earlier when we were talking about that person. I just want to clear up something. He had a paternity issue. That athlete who took his wife's name. Yes, there is a whole issue with whiteness. I am not negating that. I'm just saying he had a paternity issue, so he doesn't even know what his true last name is. And so that he stated that, and then they did some wacky astrological charts thing. And so, of course, his thinking is not super great anyway. But I just wanted to put that out there that he doesn't even know his real last name. That's why he threw it away so easily. But I really think it depends on the way that you approach your marriage. If your marriage off bat is, I'm going to pull against you, so any shine that you get, I'm going to be jealous of that. Any shine that I get, you're going to see it as a threat to your masculinity, then we're already headed to the dumpster. So I really think that for two people to want to get together, and this is just my ideology when it comes to marriage, for two people to want to get together, you two have to have a common goal that you're both striving towards, and you both know your direction. You both know, hey, do you have enough to be the big giant of a star? If you don't, supporting role and be happy with that. If you do, then we're going to be two giants plowing through this thing. So yeah, that's what I want to say. I kind of stopped abruptly.
No, it's cool. I like that. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, again, you know, everyone must do what works best for them. This was more of a discussion. It wasn't even a debate. It was a discussion to have different points of view. But it's been really good to kind of hear like different like experts. But we're even just kind of coming back onto that. Again, I don't want to use Aisha Curry and Steph Curry as a bad example per se, because I'm trying to understand their.
Corey, you want to go to the sound, come back?
Yeah, I think it's sound.
Yeah, he froze up.
Now I see Wade producing the show again.
You know, I'll produce it. Well, what I'll say is until his sound, because I'll talk till his sound comes back. I do think we have to understand that not all marriages are gonna. You can't like pre-plan and pre-package your marriage. So, for example, you know, with Obama and Michelle Obama, he wasn't a president when they got married. They both were in one particular lane, and then, you know, fate and everything led him to becoming the president, and so they both had to adjust. So when we're talking about like this big star, little star, it takes a minute sometimes to adjust to a role when you're trying to support your spouse. And so I think that's what happened more with her. I don't think neither one of them ever thought that he was going to end up being president. And then, you know, if your husband is about to run for president, he has a good shot. A good wife is not going to block him. but that doesn't mean you're not going to go through your own personal things as you're trying to adjust to your new role. And I think that's what happened versus like other people where, you know, you met this man as a basketball player. Steph Curry was going to the league. Everyone know he was going to the league. I mean, that wasn't a surprise. You can tell someone's going to the league from high school, you know? So if you decide to marry them,
that's exactly the point. That's why in my mind, Michelle Obama gets way more sympathy when she's going through those emotions than and Aisha Curry, because it's like, you knew he was headed to the league. His dad went to the league. It's obvious he was going to the league. His mom told you what was going to happen when he went to the league. Why didn't you understand that that's what was going to happen?
Right. And I agree, because I do think that's a completely different situation, and you can't be fighting for the spotlight in a situation where, you know, your own mother-in-law told you, like, look, I just went through the trauma of being a NBA wife. This is what you're set up for. Do you want to do it? And then she's like, yeah, I want to do it. You proceed to have 3 kids and then be kind of upset. I mean, that's just kind of a different, you know, situation. And I do think she has a supportive husband that really still tries to uplift her and help her find her way. So that's a little different. But I think in theory, like Corey was saying, in a perfect world, if your spouse is shining, you're going to be happy for them. That's what you're supposed to do. But I don't think people realize being in a marriage, a lot of people realize it, but until you're in it, you don't really realize that you're now molding with another human being. And that's the reason why a lot of marriages don't work, because molding with another human being decade after decade after decade, whether you guys are great people or not great people, is very hard. And adjusting and bending and mending to another person is not an easy thing. We all have our ideals when we before we walk down the aisle with our pretty white dress. But I feel like once you're in it, you realize it is hard to bend and mend and grow and evolve with another human being on this planet. You know, that is not an easy thing. And that's why a lot of people, they choose to stay single, or they stay single for a long time, because it's easy to rock out with yourself, you know, and always have that back, you know, that exit ramp, you know, that part's easy. It is not easy bending and mending with another human being decade after decade. So, you know, I always have sympathy for people I see rocking with marriages, you know, and are trying to make it work, because the people say marriage isn't easy, but they don't really say why. And I think that is the biggest thing that makes it hard, because we're all growing and evolving entities. And to make another person grow and evolve with you over the years is going to be a very counterintuitive process that can be done, but it's not always, you know, easy. So
I hear you. Question. This is me being facetious. If the man was to complain that he's having problems adjusting to the success of his wife is successful. He's the same way maybe Aisha's complained, or even how Michelle complained. Would we be giving him grace? Is my question.
You have to.
No. Would we? I'm not saying
a lot of women, won't.
A
lot of women won't. But let me tell you, this is why, and people don't like to hear this. A lot of women say, "Oh, my man cheated," right? They tell everybody their man cheated, and that's the reason for the downfall of the relationship. No, usually the downfall of the relationship started when during this mending and bending process, there was a failure to adjust. You see a lot of men who do not know how to operate with a successful wife. They don't feel like the man anymore. But they're not going to tell you, because that's being a hoe. They're not going to sit here and be like, "Oh, I can't adjust to you being successful." So what do? They find a basic chick. They may be basic look wise compared to you. They may be basic status wise compared to you. And they'll go be with her temporarily. Why? Because she makes them feel like that man again that you don't make him feel like anymore. Not because you're wrong, but because now you done bossed up. So when the relationship tumbles, everybody tell everybody, "Oh, the relationship ended because he cheated." that was part of it, but that was the byproduct of maybe a situation like that. So will the audience say, oh, you know, will we give him a pass? They're probably going to say probably not, but I'm letting you know that's a lot of the situations we have when men cannot adjust to their women being different than maybe the woman that they met originally. And I think there needs to be a lot more sympathy and conversations around on both sides. How are we adjusting to each other and not looking at the fallout of bad situations, but looking at the actual cause of these situations? And then we could be having, you know, real conversations. But I 100% would have sympathy because I've seen it and I can relate to it, and I get that.
That's real right there. Why is Corey shaking his head, bruv?
That's I respectfully disagree with Seaway. I got love for Seaway, you know that.
Wait, I want to know what part. Please let me know which part you disagree
So
with.
I believe the part where you're saying the reason why men cheat. Okay, I think respectfully, I think the best person to say that will probably be another man to understand where a man comes from. Like for me, it really boils down to greed, and when it comes to cheating. When it comes to my wife, you know, getting popularity, whatever the case may be, in this, when it comes to the conversation of in the background, I think in marriage you're just supposed to inspire each other. So if my woman is doing well, I'm not going to look at her and feel like, oh well, I can't find my place. I don't know my place in this relationship. I'm going to always know my place. If my woman succeeds, I succeed. If she's doing well, I'm doing well. So I think my mindset may be just a little bit too different for this conversation, and I'll respectfully bow out of that part of it. But to me, I just feel like the union between husband and wife is something of significance to the point of it being, I'm about her, she should be about me, and it shouldn't be a back and forth situation. It shouldn't be, okay, because you excel in this area, then I have to be on the background. You know, like Coach O asked the question, like, what would women say to a man, a husband saying, hey, I have a problem with your success. I have a problem, you know, understanding your success or being able to grow with your success. The first thing that will come up, in my opinion, it's not fact. My opinion will be that husband is trying to dim their light. So I need to dim my light for you to feel good. I need to dim my light for you to feel like you can keep up with me. That will be the conversation that's had in most situations, not all. But I'm just saying that it shouldn't be any of that in a marriage, because in that marriage you're supposed to be about each other. I'm just saying. I know you said in a perfect world, maybe I'm thinking perfect world type stuff. Maybe my mindset is a perfect world type of mindset, and I'm thankful for that. But I just think that, you know, that's just some of my thoughts on it. But like I said, if it's
sorry.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, I want to clarify to you and someone in the comments, y'all don't disagree with me. Y'all think y'all disagree with me. There is plenty of men. No, I want to make y'all actually don't disagree with me. There is plenty. I'm gonna tell y'all don't disagree with me. The reason is that there is plenty of men who cheat because they're a hoe. There are women who cheat because they're a hoe. I'm not talking about those people. There's people who like their cake and want to eat it too. I'm not talking about those people. And Corey, maybe if you ever cheated or you wanted to cheat, it was simply because you wanted your cake and you wanted to eat it too. There are people like that. I'm not talking like those are like the offset type cheaters. Like you want to love them, but they can't help themselves type cheaters. I'm not talking about them. There's plenty of them. And if you got one of them, you in for a lifetime of cheating no matter what you do, because that's just their personality trait. Their cheating is their personality trait. So deal with that. If you got one of those, you got a lifetime of that. I'm talking about the people who cheat, the male ego cheating. And Corey, if you don't have this male ego, you are fantastic. Ladies, hit up Corey. He is the one y'all want to be with. But there's a lot of men who let their ego cause them to go talk to less than women because they need their ego stroked. And that's who I'm referring to. So in a perfect world, you should have a man that supports you and you support him. That's what we want. And for me, that's what I was constantly looking for, because I constantly had men who were jealous of me. Like grown men who were jealous of me and my success. And it made my dating life so difficult because they would literally project their nonsense, their inadequacies on me. And I was like, please, God, send me somebody who is comfortable in their own skin, who's not jealous of me and wants to build with me. And you know, that's been a blessing to finally have that. But there's a lot of men who are not like that, who are inadequate, and they project their inadequacies on their women, or they go out and cheat to find someone who can stroke their ego. And I'm just speaking to the women. If you're experiencing that, that is what you're experiencing. That is what is going on. And try to go find someone who you can big up and they can big you up. But that's why I say you're not disagreeing with me, Corey, because there's plenty of hoes out there unrelated to this conversation.
Yeah, plenty of them.
Not calling you a hoe.
Just want to put this on record. I've never cheated before.
And I'm not calling Corey a hoe. I say, everybody, y'all go talk to him. He's fantastic.
Can't speak for myself.
Wow.
You're right there, Sean. You've been quiet for a long time, sir.
Sean ain't
I couldn't come off of mute. Yeah, no, I mean, I just been kind of sitting back and listening because, you know, my stance is just kind of like, I ain't got time to be tussling with folks about stuff that ain't really gonna come my way, no way, you know, because it ain't coming my way. But what I will say is that I definitely think there's some merit to some of the things that, you know, Seaway was just sharing about how relationships really break down. And a lot of times we look at the end, but we forget about the beginning and what the cause of it all is. And I think sometimes we also get hung up on things that we don't really need to be hung up on. Sometimes we fuss and fight and carry on about hypotheticals, and those hypotheticals are the things that are going to keep us single, right? You know, whether it's a woman saying, I ain't changing my name, ain't no way, right? You know, but why you caught up on that? If that's the thing that's going to keep you from the love of your life, are you willing to hold on to that? You know what I mean? And I think that that's the mantra. That's kind of like how I live my life by. Like, if it's a relationship, is it something I'm willing to die on the hill for? And for me, and I'm not trying to push my thought or viewpoint on anybody, but for me, it's not something worth me fighting about, you know? Now, my woman disrespecting me in public or treating me less than, yeah, that's something we're gonna have a problem with. And if it ain't happening the way I want it to happen, then it's gonna be a no. And no, I'm not changing my name. No, I just don't want to do it, and I don't think I should have to, and that's gonna be that. But I think like we're into some interesting conversations about what happens in a marriage. And I think that's stuff that has me thinking, because literally, you know, Corey, I hear what you're saying, and we start there, right? You start there, but then do you live there? Is that what happens over 10, 15, 20 years? And yeah, it's a process because you're constantly having to die to yourself. But as people evolve and change, that woman that you met, Corey, she ain't going to be the same woman 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the line. And you're going to have to reconcile that just the same way there's going to be things about you that are different that she's going to have to reconcile. And sometimes that reconciliation, it ain't easy. And sometimes it does cause conflict. And you have to be honest about how you feel. And if we sometimes sit and say, no, that ain't me, I'm not jealous, or, you know, I'm not unhappy about the things that are happening, you're not being honest with yourself and you're pushing it down. And then other stuff is going to come up. And we have those feelings as a person. If you met your wife at a certain point and she was very easygoing, and then there was a shift, or there was kids happened and something shifted and changed, you don't know how that's going to make you feel. And sometimes we just got to be honest and have that conversation. Hey, listen, I'm feeling this way. Or this is, you did this and I'm feeling that. Or I see you going in this direction and I don't want to knock your hustle, but at the end of the day, it is impacting our relationship. So it's real stuff that happens. It happened. I've lived certain aspects of it. So we just have to talk about it and not be so fixed on one thing. And I think, and I'll end here, like this whole, and that's why, Coach, you know, in the beginning, I pushed back with you, this whole what I'm not going to do.
Oh, well, I'm not going to do.
Yeah. That's the stuff that causes the clash, because when I come to the table and I say what I'm not going to do, guess what? I'm going to have my wife on the same table saying, well, if you're not going to do that, then I'm not going to do this. And then what we doing? We tussling again. And I had years of tussling and a divorce to prove it. I just don't want tussle no more. And I'll end it there.
I'm with you, bro. Listen, I don't want to tussle. I don't want to tussle. But I will tussle on a name. I'm so sorry.
That's worth it. That's worth it right there.
I'm going to tussle on a name. And there are going to be other things I'm going to tussle on in a relationship. I'm willing to shift and move. I don't want anyone to think that I'm a rigid post and it stays there. What I'm saying, though, is that there are certain things that I'm not willing to compromise on. I refuse to compromise on some of these things. Now, there are other things where I don't need to be so stern on it. Because there's a way that we're going, I have a vision for how I see the family, yes. But there will be things that actually I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm arguing about this, but actually when I realize that it's not that deep, this part, right? That's understandable. There are certain things in a relationship where you don't want to tussle over, and I agree with you, bro. Like you don't want to fight over certain things. I'm open to being like that, right? But there are certain things I'm very staunch on. And here's the thing I've also noticed as well. The moment I flip-flop, these women start looking at me weird. When I'm saying I'm stern on it, they're cussing me now, but they're respecting the fact that at least he stays in his position. I ain't flip-flopping. So if you're not for me, you're not for me. It's fine. Do you know what I'm saying? But there's a worse man, that a man who just does this in the wind, that as soon as you say something, oh, okay, go on, and you will do what you said then. Oh yeah, I definitely agree with what you said then, just because you said it. That's not how I operate. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think how any man should operate. Now, I definitely feel there are things in a relationship and in a marriage that there are going to be things where you're going to have a point, she's going to have a point. You're going to have to kind of, do a little bit of tussling and see. And you may today, it might be that you're right. Maybe tomorrow, it might be that, you know what, she's the person that was right. And the part that kills relationships a lot of times is the ego, in the fact that if I can see that you're right, why am I still tussling? That's the part that kills relationships. It's not when we're arguing. The arguing part, we can argue and you have your point, I have my point. And if I can come to a conclusion that actually I'm wrong, do you know what, babe, you were right. You know what I'm saying? I was wrong. I apologize. I was arguing from this point. But when I argued with you and I took it back and I learned it, I deeped it. You were right. Do you know what I'm saying? But it's when I go, I don't care. Even when I'm wrong, I can see that I'm wrong. I can see that you're right. And I'm still trying to hamper on that point. Then it's no longer about us at that point. It's just about my ego. And you're absolutely right. That is what definitely will kill relationships. But I cut off Corey. Corey, sorry, I cut you off, bro.
No, you're fine, man. I just want to touch point on something that Sean said. He made a very good point that, there'll be some things in a relationship that you need to see grow, in a marriage, and you don't know how you'll be able to handle certain things. And I agree with that. But see, that's the reason why, for me, I'm not getting married in a year. I'm not getting married in 2 years. I'm taking my time, because once I get to that point of marriage, we've already experienced some things. I've already seen areas to grow. The type of boyfriend that I am, I'm the type of boyfriend who's into my woman. So I'm going to know what she likes. I'm going to know her goals, her aspirations. I'm going to see how she moves. I'm going to see how she grows as an individual, to see if that matches how I want to grow as a family. And all of those things have to mesh well before I even get on a bended knee to ask her to marry me. So I understand what you're saying, Sean, but for me, if you're a commitment-minded man or a marriage-minded man, and you see it as being as one union, and you support your wife, you already know the type of mindset you're going to have in a situation like that. We're talking about situation-based. Like, we're talking about things that have come up in different marriages that we've seen on TV and other ways, in celebrity. And we're asking how we deal with that. My mindset on how I would deal with that is how I'm speaking today. So if I have the mindset of thinking that way, I want to make for sure that my wife is going to have that same mindset. Out of the years that we're dating each other, I'm going to see that mindset that she has, and that's what's going to be important to me to minimize. It's no guarantee that we won't have those bumps in the road, but to minimize us having the bumps in the road. And if those bumps come up, by our time in the relationship, she's already going to understand. She's already going to know how I would manage those bumps to give her that security when I do decide to get on bended knee and ask her to marry me. She already knows what she's getting. So that part is what's important to me. So I get what everyone on the panel is saying when it comes to, those unexpected situations come up. But if you mentally prepare for the unexpected, then even if something comes up that you didn't expect, you would still have the essence of how you would actually handle the situation. So I think that's the place where I'm coming from.
This is some good stuff right here. That's some good stuff. Y'all giving some good points. I'm loving this discussion. Y'all giving different points. Yeah. Oh, someone said new question for dating. How well can you adjust? It's a question that has to be put in there before you marry somebody. How well can you adjust? On a scale of 1 to 10, give us a can you adjust well? Are you good with change?
Single male. I'm a single male. Let that speak for itself. You know, that's all we can adjust. You know what I mean? So yeah,
you have to pull out that sheet and be like, listen, there's 20 questions here. I need you to answer all these questions. Okay. That will let us know how good you are with change. I'll come back in 5. But no, you know what I mean? So no, no, this is good. I mean, like I said, it's like I said, obviously Sean's been married, Seaway's been married, and so I'm also appreciating you guys' experience as well, in sharing your thoughts as well. I'm coming from a single perspective, relationship perspective as well. So, you know, I'm also taking in your experience as well, and trying to take that on board as well. You know what I mean? Because we're learning here and we're growing together as people, and taking the different experiences in as well. So I value Sean and Seaway's points as well. You know, because it's about that.
V, you've been married to? V, you're married to her?
Oh, sorry, V's married too. So apologies, V. Apologies.
No, I knew she was, because she was nodding because she know.
She said,
When you know, you know.
I was having flashbacks.
Yo, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things. You know, this topic has been interesting. You know, this topic's been interesting. There's one last question we've got for the night. One last question. So since we were talking about Dwayne Wade, actually, this actually came up my in my pop-up actually earlier on. So apparently Dwayne Wade doesn't believe a husband should lead a marriage. Y'all said you want a new age man who understands all these things. He's here telling you he doesn't need to lead a marriage. Ladies and gentlemen, talk to me. What are we saying?
But did we need him to do that social media post? No, I mean, I thought that was understood. We knew that. We knew how he felt. Like, it's like, bro, you could have held that in. We knew it.
Yeah, you can let that out. Yeah.
I'm divesting from him.
He said, I do not lead in my marriage with Gabrielle Union.
We know.
Just like he didn't write that post in his marriage. She did.
No, you lot are moving mad. What's wrong with Gabrielle Union losing the marriage?
People need to stop putting that on Gabrielle. That is him.
Yeah,
people want to put everything on the people want to put everything on the woman and make it more digestible.
He wants to relax. What's wrong with that?
That is him. And she's gonna look up in about 20 years and realize, I don't know what that lady gonna realize, but let me stop. I need to be mindful. I'm gonna divest. Y'all can talk about it.
You might run into her, so you don't worry about that. You know, so you might see her in the courtroom very soon.
No, you just gotta be careful about this topic, because people be really ready to tussle about this. So whatever Dwayne Wade want to do, he can do.
So the question is, do you want your husband to lead? That's the question. Does he lead the relationship or not? Does he lead the marriage or not? Do you want him to lead or not? That's the question we're going to be asking, you know. So outside of Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union, do we believe that a husband should lead the marriage? If so, if yes or no, why? Those particular thoughts has been a final question before we end the night. So V, yes, V, I see you pumping up ready. Go for it, sis.
Yes, I believe he should lead because I lead in my profession and I do not want to lead at the house. So hopefully I married somebody that has some good sense that I won't mind following, because he will be a great leader.
V said, I hope you listen, husband. Give it that new car. I love your response. I appreciate it. Sure. What's your thoughts? Do you think that a husband should be leading? By the way, should be leading the household?
Yes, I do.
Why is that?
Because I'm a believer and I ascribe to Christian beliefs, and I believe that the man is the head of the household.
Love that. Okay, beautiful. Appreciate it. Short and sweet. Maribade, talk to us. What's your thoughts on this particular situation?
I think somebody has to lead. If you could, I don't know. I don't know if people think you can 50-50 it. But somebody, you can't have two leaders. I don't think so. Yeah, I would say yes. Like, it's important for the man to lead. Yeah.
Fair enough. Appreciate that. Yeah. Seaway.
I like that somebody has to lead. So you can't have two leaders in a house. You can't have two captains flying a plane. I mean, it's just how it works. Have you ever seen like co-presidents? That don't really work well either. Somebody's gonna end up being the real president, and the other person is gonna be doing whatever. So, so for me, I want the husband or the man to lead, especially if he's leading me in the right direction.
Love that.
And only if he's leading in the right direction. Can't let a man lead you off a cliff, ladies.
That's true.
But yeah, that's the ideal situation. But if you have a man that ain't leader material, and you want to lead, go off, do what you want to do. Ain't that what my name said? Do what you want.
Do what I want.
Yeah, because some people got men that shouldn't be leading nowhere. So in that case, maybe you should lead.
How about you lead yourself out of the relationship?
What Cynthia G said, they're not divesting.
How about lead your way out?
They're not going to do that. I'm giving suggestions for reality. If you ain't gonna leave and he can't lead, then you lead. Somebody got to be making good decisions. But ideally, I think it's great when a man will take that leadership role. I think it works well.
That's fair. Corey, what's your thoughts? Husband to lead or not?
Bro, come on now. Come on now. Yes, I do believe that the husband should lead. I will throw y'all some scripture, but I don't want to get it that deep. But but yeah, definitely, without a doubt, the husband should lead.
Love that. Short and sweet. We appreciate that. All right, fantastic. Listen, we've come to the end of this conversation. I know it's a bit late for you guys. Sean, do what you do best, please, and round us up in the benediction.
John, can you read Jay's comment first?
What's her comments?
She said, I'll lead myself to another man. I'm tired of her.
She is the ultimate troll. She's the ultimate troll. She's the worst.
And then she did this one too.
Lead in the kitchen and the bedroom.
Tell Jay to get him. We'll catch her on
out of here. We're gonna tell her like Chris Samuels told Monique, hush. Hush.
The Alabama talk gonna get you into trouble, boy.
Oh, exactly, right? So listen, everybody, we've definitely had a spirited conversation. We've talked about last names changing, man to woman, woman to man. We've talked about relationship styles. We've talked about it all. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, whether your name is changing, you need to change if you're going to be in a relationship and ultimately in a marriage. You both need to change. And if you are not open to change for the betterment of the relationship, then it's going to be problematic. So I would say keep your minds open. Less tussling, do tussling in the places where tussling is most enjoyable for the both of you. And we'll leave that up to your imagination. And I'll turn it back to you, Coach.
Love that. Appreciate that. Thank you very much, Sean, as always. Listen, audience members, it's been amazing. It's been great. It's been good to have this conversation. We're going to be back next week, okay? Same time, 8 p.m. I'll have a topic for you. I haven't got one at the moment. If you've got a topic that you think is burning right now, message me. Give me an email or Insta, and I'll consider it for a topic for next week. So next week, we're gonna be back here again, 8 p.m., open discussion, and get you guys to have a conversation again once more. And we'll have hopefully another productive conversation like we've had today. And I really appreciate all the viewpoints. SK was here earlier on. I know Maribade, Corey, Sean, V, and Seaway. Thank you for your opinions and your thoughts. Listen, audience, this is conversation. I may be wrong. You already know I could be wrong. Maybe I will be marrying somebody who is gonna take my last. You know what? I might even take someone else's last name. No, you know I'm lying. So listen, and guys, it's been brilliant. It's been amazing. It's been great. Corey, what are you saying?
No, some people were asking in the comments what the scripture was.
Don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. They were asking for the scripture.
What the scripture? Oh no, give it to him. Give it to the scripture.
Okay.
This is a good scripture.
1 Corinthians 11:3. Read 1 Corinthians 11:3. That's it. Ephesians
5 as well for you guys who are out there. Okay. All right. I just want to let you know. Colossians 2 also will be there for you guys as well if you want to read that. Sorry, I have prior practice. All right, guys. Not us quoting scriptures. Listen, we'll be back here next week. Back for another conversation. And I'll tell you this now. Listen, whatever your opinion is, whatever you feel about this subject, we all respect one another, okay? All right? We're all respecting each other, right? But let me just tell you this now, okay? All right? Some of you really just want this.
I don't want peace. I want problems, always.
And let me tell you this now as well. If you tell me you're going to ask me to hyphenate my name...
Get out of here. Get out of here, man.
Don't ask me to hyphenate my name. Goodbye. Good night. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you again next week, baby.
You're here breathing heavy like a dog. Think about your life.